This is Gamer out there for all you. How you doing? Late start today. I knew I was going to be late in the middle of last night when I couldn't get to sleep, and I set my alarm 2 hours later. But oh well. But I'm here, finally. You know, I could have used some more sleep, but I do want to play this game. But you know, I was thinking as I was getting started here, nobody's watching yet, but a few people will watch this later, I know. I don't play Hearts as Iron 4 as much as I would like because I stream it live. Now, 2 different days, basically. Basically, Friday it's not so much scheduled because it sort of shifts around a bit. Do the multiplayer, and Sunday play this. But since, and yeah, I know I can set up a different campaign to play. But I'd probably play it twice as many hours a week if I wasn't live, or playing it live, and whatnot. So yeah, I am looking forward to playing this, most assuredly. We're attacking there. That is, you know, okay, 3 divisions, yeah, that's about historically correct. Let's add in a light armored division. So if anybody shows up down there, say hi, just so I know I'm not entirely talking into the ether. Okay, we got 99 out of 100 possible L3s. CV-33 tank. So we're going to put... hello, Martin Smith. How are you? Well, how am I? A bit sleepy, but looking forward to playing and hoping to hang out with some of you guys. And hello, Frog Eyes. Hey, it's been a while. Good to see you here again. And so, just sort of after playing Germany yesterday with the live multiplayer crew, sort of getting reoriented back to this game. Okay, I don't think we're gonna, well, I'm not sure if we're gonna invade Yugoslavia or not, but that's probably not going to be the first European war that we have. Let's analyze this border. Okay. If this wasn't here, if this fortification wasn't here, this would be a bad province to defend. Very bad province to defend. Because it can be attacked from 3 provinces. So all these forces can concentrate here. Now, if you're going to go on the offense right away, say, this is a good province to have, because you can push down into Turin right away and start seeing about cutting off units and, you know, pushing out of Nice here and trying to make a small pocket. That would be good. It would be better to have your fort back here. I know some of these things are all preset, either by a national focus or something, to build a, and there were fortifications here historically for both nations. Don't know how strong the Italians would be considered, but though at fortress level, but they did exist. But if you defend this one back here, because there's no real resources or anything here, this province can only be attacked from this one province, and this province here, which you need to defend on the edge, can be attacked from 2, and this province could then only be attacked from 2, and this province can only be attacked from 2, and so on down to here where this province can only be attacked from 1. So yeah, this is a bad province to defend. Is there a bad province for Italy to defend here along here? Well, this, if they moved into here, it would be the death trap, because although, you know, I'm presuming there's no defenses built. If Italy moves in to attack or whatever, France can, I know, like, there's natural defenses in the mountains, but France can attack from 3 provinces. So this is the one province, unless you're really going on the offensive, is the province to avoid. Here you have what benefits, and I'm not exactly sure all of them, but the benefits of an urban environment to defend in, and these all are mountainous. So even though like this one can be hit from a total of 3 provinces, to move back to here, you're back on the plains, so they would just be able to push down out of it. So there is not a, you know, at best not to defend province kind of thing. Yeah, okay, so all this was endeavored to look at to see where do I want to move the mountain division, and it'll be to here. I know, long talk, but just giving you some of my thoughts. Okay, this is a really fast, well, this is a fast, really weak division. Right, and we're the 2nd Reggimento de Piedmontine Cavalleria. So not even really a division. This is another cavalry, yeah, this is another cavalry regiment. Okay, well, because we're not getting super close yet compared to text, it's a shift click from last week. Let's try this. Shift click. Oh, great. Cool. Cool. Thank you. I know I play this a bunch. I don't know all the little shortcuts and things. That way, if I was comparing 2 fighters or 2 artillery pieces or something like that, yes. Or ships or something. That works. Yes, very much so. Thank you. Shift click. I will try to remember that. Okay, well. Back to... Can Ethiopia be defended? Should Ethiopia be defended? Okay. Well, let's start an episode here. Might as well. I feel a bit in a talking mood. Hello, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 World Ablaze mod, and we're playing as Italy. So I was just thinking on, should Ethiopia be defended? And some, and I'm not sure here, but you know, whether you try to release Ethiopia to, or you can, some mods have it, to an Italian puppet state specifically, not just release it back to Ethiopia, but as an Italian thing. Let's presume for the moment we're not in a mod or playing. And hello, Mr. Coco Man, how you doing? Or whatever, that we're just trying to turn it into some sort of puppet state and abandon it to its fate. Should it be defended? Yes and no. It's a complicated answer. Should you try hard to defend Ethiopia? No. And Eritrea and Somalia. But no. But should you have some defenses in there? Yes, I think so. Because you do have a local level of supply because of some of the factories. And so you can have in your mountain, so you can stick a few units in here and make humans or AIs, but we're often fighting the AIs, keep forces down here to deal with you, hopefully enough that will allow you to, say, push Cairo. Now, so a little bit of defense. The other thing is, should you be defending or should you be on the offense in Ethiopia? Well, to give a bit of historical context, Italy did go on the offensive. This was, at least at the time, sort of, it was yet to be Free French. It was, whether it was, and there's not much here in Djibouti as a French colony, or French Somaliland, however you want to call it. But it was sort of, well, very good, Harmony. How you doing? I don't know if it was strongly Vichy French, but it's sort of Vichy French, so it's sort of neutral by the time things kick off down here and functionally during the period of the British fighting the Italians down here, the Commonwealth, however you want to say that. It was more or less neutral. Little side note, it was sort of up here in this part of Madagascar. The British invaded, because it was a Vichy colony. They had some R-35, I believe it was, the two-man tanks. I mean, it could have been the H-35s or something, but I think they're the R-35s, not the FT-17s of World War I, but R-35s down here when the British invaded. And those weren't like brand spanking new, as sort of like adoption date 1935. Though they produced them, well, they switched over to the R-39. Or is it, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they were over to the 39, which is basically a more powerful gun, instead of, because there was the H-39 and the H-35 and the R-35. I don't know if Renault ever did the sort of the 39 series. And so I don't know if the tanks that were here when the British invaded in late 41, I believe it was, were here before France surrendered, which sort of makes me go, oh, really? They send, and they got lots of them, but they're the new tanks. They send them out to Madagascar. I think the Vichy government, I don't have the facts on this, but I think the Vichy government sends like a squadron or whatever, because it's like a cavalry unit or whatever it's called, of light tanks down to Madagascar. And this is after the French allow Japanese occupation. Most of the French troops stay in Indochina when the Japanese occupation. They give up all their heavy equipment, but they still basically have their rifles and ammunition and basically live in barracks during the war. It's sort of a weird situation there for the French. And the Vichy French government were, I don't know whether unable or unwilling, because this is before Japan is at war with the rest of the world outside of China, were unable or unwilling to remove their troops, maybe hoping that if we just sort of ignore the situation and leave the troops there, something will happen to Japan and we'll get our colonies back. I don't know, but the British are very afraid that Japan will come in, whether fully occupy Madagascar or simply use it as a base for submarines. I know we're sort of talking on about other topics here, so we will continue, but I hope you find this interesting. During the sort of late 1940, once, Italy's at war with Britain, until mid to late 42, once the Sicily invasion is happening, British supplies cannot effectively be moved through the Mediterranean, and these are supplies going in both directions. There's supplies, but also resources. There's lots of food being grown in Australia as well as Canada that are going to Britain, and just as part of the general colonial empire. There's other resources, and maybe food, I'm not sure, coming from India. Maybe not too much food, but I don't know. They're all going to Britain into the industrial complex. Most of the colonies are not what we would consider industrialized. Hey, Suter, it's been a while. Good to have you here. And so, all that, a lot of it goes through the Suez Canal. Well, that gets shut down by the war. Yeah, we could talk about, and I've read some, the heroic convoys into Malta, and there's a few dashes through the Mediterranean of warships all the way through. So there is some of that, but effectively, to supply Egypt, to supply when the British are in Greece, to supply everything out here, to supply Iraqi and Iranian oil to the British industrial complex, because including some of the oil is good enough to right out of the ground. Thank you, very, very loud motorcycle. To be, ships' boilers, to run straight out of the ground. They don't need to be processed. But, that's keeping. Now, you got to process it for like diesel engines and submarines and other vessels, but the big turbines, not so much, I don't think. So whether it's straight out of the ground or refined fuel from this part of the world, Britain needs everywhere. And so this here is a massive lifeline here for Britain, a choke point, if you will, if the Japanese base submarines out of Madagascar in any sort of number. Now, Japan has an institutional problem. Been a while, not sure how often you stream, but I got a couple of weeks at a time in between jobs. Plenty of time. Well, very good. Watch, yeah. Mostly I stream right now, Friday afternoons in America, Saturday and Sunday mornings, and also in American time here in California. Hearts of Iron Friday and Saturday, and Sunday War Thunder. So just anybody out there, keep that in mind if you want to catch me live as opposed to not. And I like the interaction with people here, not just talking while playing. Okay, so Japan, and I know I'm sort of keep jumping back a little bit, but Japan does not effectively use their submarines at all for commerce warfare. That is not their naval doctrine. That is not the sort of warrior and samurai, and a lot of samurai families move into the Navy. So they have these samurai traditions in the Navy. And so they want to use their submarines against enemy fleet assets, whether they're, the great thing would be go sink the carrier, or, battleships or cruisers or whatever, or use them as scouting elements for fleets. Submarines on the surface aren't super slow, but they may not be very fast like a destroyer, but still you just sort of, spread them all out. And if big danger comes, whatever that may be, whether air, ships or whatever, just dive and go away from it. But, with radios report enemy fleet movements. So they do not use them as commerce raiders. But because Britain is smart and Britain is feeling the commerce raiding of Germany, is definitely afraid of Japanese commerce raiding with submarines. They do a little bit, just a little bit, but not that much. And so it's more of a fear than any plan. There was some talk, I think, of Japan quietly, if you will. I don't know if secret's the right term, but quietly using Madagascar as a, sort of a refueling, getting more food, because part of it is fuel on the submarines. Part of it is water. A lot of submarines, I know American ones, have some distillation capabilities on submarines, turning salt water into fresh water, but even that is a limited amount of use. But also food is something to keep going. So whether quietly showing up here and getting restocked, or whether coming in here, setting up a Japanese naval base, have some ships that, fast merchant ships come in escorted by some naval vessels, land with lots of extra torpedoes and whatnot to keep full activity up there, and maybe a significant Japanese garrison. Britain is very, very afraid of that because, again, they can't move stuff through Italy. To come this way around can be done, but just adds much more time. And yes, if you're starting out here in Eastern Australia, it might not be the huge, I don't know how much supplies, but I do know most of the stuff coming out of Australia seems from different sources seems to go past Africa and around. But of course, you're moving stuff up here in India, like, again, as I was saying, in Iran and Iraq. It's just better to go this way. So it could be a massive problem. And of course, once you have submarines out there, you just put a few long-range scout planes out to find whether it's individual ships or convoys. This would be a massive, massive problem. Oh, Simeon, how you doing? Massive, massive problem for Britain if this becomes a Japanese or even a German base. So sometime, and I'm just going all this off of memory, I read an article many years ago about it. Britain decides to invade Madagascar, and it is held by Vichy. And they're under some understanding that this Vichy is going to fight. The command here is going to fight. Like I say, they had some. I think it's like 12 or something. I think they're the R-35 tanks down here in Madagascar. So I think they were moved after the fall of France out here. I think there were some other units that were thought to be loyal to Vichy were moved out to here. Now, also remember, and again I'm jumping over, Vichy was limited, like Germany was after World War II, to a limited size of army. But they were not allowed to recruit new units in their colonial army. They I believe, were allowed to shift some of their units out of France as part of the reduction down to the size of army that they were allowed to have, some of their units out of France to the colonies. Now, one of the sort of tricks that Vichy did was to increase the size of the units. So, and, we still have four platoons in our company. It's just our platoons have got 30% larger. Instead of 30 men, they're now 45 men or whatever. So they did a lot of this sort of, without telling the Germans that they're recruiting more recruits, whether local, Moroccans or French people living in Morocco or French people traveling from Vichy, fleeing possible whatever and signing up for a job in the army kind of thing. This is when they're still under Vichy control. There was a whole program by the French to increase the strength of the French army, partially in the colonial areas, by, not adding any more units to it. And since the Germans weren't really coming out and inspecting just how many soldiers were in the barracks, they just weren't informing them of the increase in size. So they're out here. And to the point, and the reason it's not just the British show up and land, they actually have to battle their way into the main control points. It all takes place up in the northern part of Madagascar here. This is sort of where like some of the major port would be. And it's a campaign. And the Vichy forces don't fight hard. And, they're not like, fighting to the death or anything like that. They fight until whatever position they're in is getting flanked, getting turned around, and then retreating into another one. And then, it's fighting until they're sort of at a disadvantage and then retreating or eventually giving up. So it's a real fight, but it isn't, and men on both sides die. But it isn't meant either for the Vichy or for the British, to fight to the death. It's just fight until, oh yeah, hey, we're in a good position. Our machine guns are set up, our mortars are set up. There's the enemy. We're going to shoot at them. Once they're, oh shit, we're getting, shelled and bombed, and they set machine guns up on those hills and are shooting at us, we're out of here kind of thing. So it's very willing to fight, but not so much willing to die might be a good example for the cause. So there is, in 41, the British invade here. I know we're still talking about Ethiopia, but it's sort of in the theater. So as that's going on, or before that even going on, Italy declares war. Now, there is nothing. I don't know how big this unit is. Southern African. Okay, we have some vague idea here. 4 to 19 infantry units and 1 to 4 artillery units. Okay, all in one unit. So probably that's a rather strong unit there, but whatever its strength is. Second West African Force, like a similar sort of vague statement of strength. But it's nothing like this when the war breaks out. Kenya, there's, in southern Sudan, or just Sudan, has some occupation forces, not a whole lot. They bring up some Australian, some Indian Army, some South African, and take Ethiopia here. The British do. Now, but when this breaks out, the Italians are much better positioned. They have stockpiles of munitions. They never really run out of munitions. More, their supply dumps get overrun as they have to retreat, or they decide to retreat from British advances. And so, some of this area, is not terribly defendable, because Britain does bring up a lot of areas, and the new areas that they sort of retreat into are newly conquered, but could be well defended. But before all this happens, Italy launches an offensive into British Somaliland, which does rather well. The Britain is able to evacuate some of the forces out, but to Aden. But Italy does have a victorious campaign of taking this, and there's nowhere near these levels of forces. Right. Okay, so do we fight? Okay, so if you're playing this game, do you try hard to hold Somalia? Well, if you think either Germany or you is somehow going to rapidly be able to take the Suez and then get supply lines down to here and do that, sure. I think, and we may end up trying it, coming in invasion out of Rhodes to somewhere here, having a lot of naval forces so that we have naval superiority, so we can do a naval invasion into Egypt. And we might be able to do that. We might be able to do this and pull this off. But we got to make sure we have enough forces up here to link up fast enough. Now, if you're not sure you're going to do that, but you might look at it and go, hey, we can put a lot of forces here and push out. Take British Egypt, take British East Africa. Go and take these areas. That might be very doable to happen, but it's not looking like I want to do that now. So what we need to do is have some forces down here that are going to sort of, this is 8% resistance strength, 8%, it's just out here, 0, didn't expect any, but just wanted to see. Okay. Hopefully we don't get too much. Oh, what do these look like? Division Coloniale. Okay, so we're going to leave the Division Coloniale. And we're going to take some of these proper divisions out of here. Let's send you over to there. And so we're going to, okay, now see, I would have what looks to be a pith helmet, but I'm sure that's just supposed to be a helmet of some sort, as my Division Coloniale symbols if I had to.
Formazione. Comandi.
Let's move you
Avanzate.
up to there because I want the AI player. And now, of course, this is. I just don't know whether this is a good idea to turn on a British South Africa, British East Africa, into the AIs. I don't know, or whether it's better just to have them as Britain. But okay.
Attento.
Maybe move you up here as well.
Avanzate.
Okay, and
Comandi.
just for the moment move you to the front there, just to sort of scare the AI into thinking that, yeah, this is going to be a tough fight. You ready for it, kind of thing. Let's move them to there. We have, this is going to be one of these light divisions. All right. Well, we might be wanting to move into there, so let's send that to there. Now, what is our equipment looking like currently? Light tanks 57. We are making just almost 3.5 tanks in a week. Right. I think they were making more than that by 38, or could be.
Comandi.
I don't think we're going to really try to push into France. So some of my more mobile divisions will go there.
Attento.
You come down to there. I'm definitely very looking much for mobility versus immobility, I guess. So I do want to put, we'll put both of these into there. Make sure we don't get pushed through the town. Sounded like potato. Do Italians eat a lot of potatoes? Surrender your neutral network humanoids. Not a toy jet. I rejoice for that you are one with the hive now. I think you're off your meds again, boy. Surrender your spaghetti. Never. That's too good eating. That's going to be a province that can be hit from 3 of theirs. This is another one that's going to be hit from 3 of theirs. We have some of these new fascist black shirt divisions, which look like that. Decent divisions. They got it light tank backup. All right. Okay, these guys are fairly decent then. Because these don't have, don't think, I'm just checking to make sure, yeah, don't have that. So if these are all the same, they look good. Okay, it won't necessarily be fast, but a little bit of armor is nice. So we're going to, well, let's send one of you to North Africa. One of you up here in the mountains, give them a little bit of armor protection. Hello, Arno. Yeah. I don't know what to do with them, really, quite honestly. These guys here, talking about the divisions he hates with one armored battalion. It's not, look, Guderian and others are correct, that it is best to gather your armor, not like pure armor, but your armor with, a divisional type, armor division type elements, with infantry support, artillery, all this stuff. And then concentrate those divisions at one point on the battlefield and attack with overwhelming superiority. He's absolutely right about it. And you want a lot of speed. Okay. Now, we're Italy. We're not the Italian Empire looking out here, but we're Italy. Let's just look at Italy. Where do you do that? You're Italy. And this is one thing that people often, I know it's Italian black shirts, but still, right. A lot of people look at military forces, and I'm very guilty of this too, in sort of theoretical terms. And especially as an American, at times in our history, we've had forces set up to specifically fight in the American conditions. And we can think of the Indian Wars, moving east. And so, sort of cavalry troops, because you don't need infantry, you don't need artillery, because they'll just slow you up because you're fighting the Indians. And the Indians, yes, can raid very fast, but generally they move mildly quick because, they move their whole communities around and they need their sort of community support. So you need patrolling forces. So yeah, sometimes in our history we've had it, but most of the time in our history, since probably, I don't know, well, because you can even look back at the Mexican-American War in the 1850s, when we fought all the way down to Mexico City. Realize this. Before the American Civil War, the U.S. puts up, the U.S., which is really mostly people up here, and they did have Texas, just barely, puts together an invasion army that fights all the way down and takes Mexico City. So, yeah, there was a proper Mexican-American War before the American Civil War. They fought all the way down and against a strong imperialistic Mexican army and took Mexico City. And there was some very heroic fighting. Some of the officers later, of course, become famous generals in the Civil War that did some very big heroics. Fighting into Mexico City and whatnot. You can read about some of that. But mostly the American armed forces, outside of, fighting the Civil War and outside of that, mostly the American armed forces are set up to fight somewhere else. And you don't know 5 years in advance whether you're necessarily going to be in the sandbox or fighting to, deploying to Lithuania or Latvia, or, fighting there, or being deployed, I don't know, well, we have sort of units stationed permanently in Korea, but deployed to defend in Taiwan, or an emergency reaction to maybe a military coup in Burma, or whatever. Yep. People forget about that. No, it's, there's a lot of history goes on. So, the U.S., or deployed to, I don't know, be some sort of peacekeeping divisional force between India and Pakistan or something. So the U.S. Army is set up to go wherever, and they don't necessarily know years in advance to organize themselves up. They might know weeks or months in advance, but that's different. Okay. So when you're one of these nations, you have an idea of the terrain you're going to fight in. If you're Switzerland, who, is going to fight here, it ain't going to fight over here. Now, yeah, but even their national policy will not allow them, because they're not a member of are they? They may have joined the UN. I don't know. Originally, they were not. I don't know if somebody wants to look up and see if Switzerland is a member of the United Nations? I'm not sure that they are. But they'll never do peacekeeping forces anywhere. They're sort of, so they're never going to deploy out here. They know they're only going to fight in this region, even if they try to become an imperial power. Oh yeah, absolutely, Harmony. But they know they're going to fight here. So they designed their military forces for this environment. UN and okay, thank you, because I know for a long time they weren't a member of the UN because it is sort of a non-neutral body, if you will. Thank you. In 2002. So yeah, they know they're going to fight here. Now, Denmark did maybe even still, send some troops to help, fight in Afghanistan or something like that. But that's just small expeditionary elements. So they look at their environment to what they're going to fight in. Well, so with Italy, you got to look, and we're not looking at colonial or imperial Italy out there. We're looking at this Italy. Where are you going to use an armored division? Seriously. And I've not gotten all the way through it. I read about a third of it and got distracted by other things a few years ago. Iron Arm, which is the best book I could find anywhere, and I ordered it, on the Italian armored forces. Tanks, not just on the tanks, but on the creation and development of their armored forces, which really start happening in more like 41. It doesn't happen very early. Now they've got tanks before then, but the idea of, and this is what you got to see with the armies, tanks before the start of World War II were often just seen as armored motorized cavalry units, not as armored divisions. So they were sort of like, hey, yeah, we need some reconnaissance gallopers. Well, instead of on horses, we'll have motors. Well, let's put them in like an armored thing. Oh, they can go across country. So it's like a CV-33 or, the Italians did their Fiat version of the FT-17, which was very fast. So it's just sort of like, yeah, here's some tanks. And that's what this is really, is just some tanks that are operating as armored reconnaissance, really, in my opinion. But also sort of dashing breakthrough Switzerland was unarmed peacekeepers and Bosnian observers in... Oh, that's it. Okay, I did not know that they even had unarmed peacekeepers. I do understand that through the Red Cross element of Switzerland, and even they did during World War II, there was a little bit of Red Cross observers, sometimes in POW camps, sometimes sort of up at the front. I know there was a few Swiss Red Cross observer types, and I mean a few as in like 4 or 5, in with German forces, during the Eastern Front campaign. So I do know that, and they were military, Swiss military people there, but they were there as sort of Red Cross observers. So I know they do some of that type of stuff even before this, but it was more through the Red Cross, which is a sort of Swiss-based organization, that they've gone around and did that, but not as a armed interventionist forces of, like, they didn't get into Korea, I know. Yeah. Reconstruction they do. Yeah. And that again is sort of like, I think, through the Red Cross type office element of it. So so before World War II, the tanks aren't necessarily seen as a major combined armed element that shouldn't just be taking whatever hussars and giving them tanks and doing the same roles. And so you don't necessarily want to create huge cavalry divisions, especially in the age of the machine gun and you're in the mountains. So Italy is going along wanting some tanks, making tanks, building tanks, but they're a support element to everything else. And so again, I understand your criticism and why you don't like it, but where are you going to do your into Yugoslavia? Okay, maybe. These are sort of hills. Yes, they have some mountains, but a lot of it's sort of hills. But you're surrounded up in Austria and Switzerland and France by mountains. You got lots of mountainous territory here. Yeah, you can dash around here maybe a bit in, armored division fashion, but you're mostly coming around here to block invasions or whatever. So they did not see too much of a need for armored divisions. And, this is what they're calling here 2nd Division Sierra Emilia Filberto. Don't know who he or she is, but that's Celera or whatever. It's a fast division to them, and so they're seeing light tanks, they're seeing motorized, they're seeing some cavalry. Maybe we should change that to improve the speed a bit here. Motorized artillery. I wonder what would the cost be to get rid of those cavalry units. Edit. Well, we may have the battalions. No, we don't want to do that. Reset. Okay. We want to go mobile battalions, motorized infantry. Battalions, motorized infantry. Okay, and I'm looking for. Okay, well, we have almost enough, and probably enough to make it before too long, because we just need, 75 or so, 76 technically right now. I know we are using up some in motorized to get over there. So yeah, this should increase the speed of the unit and maybe the effectiveness of the unit. So we will save that. So now we are in a, something of a panzer, something of an armored division here. Bunch of tanks, they're light, and that's all we have at the moment, so that's fine. Got some motorized artillery, some support artillery, a decent amount of infantry to be a decent division. So yeah, okay, so we have a couple of these divisions. One here, I think, just one here and one in Spain. It also appears to me that the game does not appreciate infantry, support, tanks, assault guns enough. Some people tend to go either for armored prepared divisions or no armored divisions at all. Right, yeah. I don't know how well the game reacts to some of that ideas. And this sort of, like I was saying, Guderian and crew are correct in the idea of massing your striking power. I license the Flak 88 from Journey. Smart move. And attacking. Absolutely right. But the French are also right in that if you have an infantry division, brigade or whatever, but an infantry division, and you give them a couple of companies of tanks, whether they be the modern today sense, a company or two of M1 Abrams, or a company or two, of R-35s or CV-33s or even, Panzer IVs, in the middle of the war. That makes that infantry division stronger. Maybe not strong enough to resist a proper thrust of enemy armor coming at you, but definitely stronger in dealing with other enemy infantry divisions, whether they have tanks or not. So if your force size and budget, sort of like modern day U.S. armies, is not a mass mobilization army, and the modern U.S. Army can afford enough tanks to have armored divisions, as well as stick either a few platoons or a few companies of tanks in with infantry divisions. We've got enough tanks, enough ability. The budget isn't based around can we afford the tanks and all that support element of it. It's how big of a standing army does the U.S. want to have today. If for some reason we need to go mass army someday and we need lots of armored divisions, we very well may shift all the armor and focus it into a few armored divisions. But right now we can spread it out. Okay, so for Italy dealing with this, and if we're being attacked by French infantry forces that may have little anti-tank ability, and having some tanks to give that hardness in the game. Get some Stugs, yeah, or SPGs, yeah, in the game here. in terms to defend this. It very well might be a very good idea to have that little bit of stiffening in the forces. Now, for me, I've got 5 of these by event. Whether I want to build more or not, I'm not sure. What do I do with them? Okay, let's take a look at them. They only have motorization enough for, I guess, for this unit or whatever takes a motorized element. So they're not going to be fast. They got combat assault engineers. Okay, so horse-drawn logistics company. So they're not going to be fast. So they're not going to dash into the British. And am I going to hate this mod, people? Is everywhere freaking, or is it just Mersa Maruth that have defenses? Is there defenses all along this goddamn line? There are defenses back here that are going to make this impossible to get. I hate when games do this. I hate when games do this stuff. Mersa Maruth, I don't. Tobruk was better defended. Yeah, I hate when games do this. Well, we'll see. I may rage quit after a while. Port garrison. Just okay, one time. Well, if it's well, it's 3 land. Because there really wasn't this kind of stuff around a level 3 fortification. Yeah, I know there was some sort of whatnot, and I think it was more back at Mersa Maruth or whatever that the Italians attacked. Oh, man. Look, people, we all know the AI sucks in Hearts of Iron 4. And mod makers, including, you know, I know Uncharted who makes this mod. Really? Level freaking 3. What the hell is he thinking? What's the level alone here? Level 5. Okay. Oh man, you know, no, I don't know. So obviously we'll swing around this when we come here, but it just seems like overkill. You know, maybe a level 1. Some mods have a difference between forts and sort of pillboxes, and can have several levels of pillboxes. That would probably be more appropriate, or the minimum level. Because I do know that you know, Germany, you know, do you have Germany's defenses along here? Germany built a lot of defenses along here. They did sort of a, you know, before, you know, and this is when Poland was, you know, still in existence. They were building fortifications along here. Do we have those? No. What's your strategy for Air Force? Fly planes around. Basically, I'm going to try to use the air power to help with control of the Mediterranean, and then just, you know, control my skies and use ground attack planes to, you know, affect the battle space. Hello, unpronounceable Russian name. How you doing? That's what I basically say to anybody who's writing to me in Cyrillic or has a Cyrillic name. I mean, he didn't write in Cyrillic, but I can't read it. And so, yeah, a couple of these might be nice as, shall we say, support divisions and pushing around the British here. Yeah, I don't know what to do with the rest of these. We'll leave one in Rome just to make sure that something weird doesn't happen. I don't think the AI is going to do a lot of invasions, since we're not playing humans here. El Alamein is hell in this like in real life. Oh, well, I forgive El Alamein a little bit because I don't think the AI is going to build defenses there, but that's still a bit of an overkill. and which again makes me think maybe we should see about controlling the the sea area here and just invading back somewhere in here. Probably around Port Said would be best. And to get a port quickly undefended, try to control through here and do that. And that bypasses El Alamein. We just have to do enough forces to make it holdable back here or something. It is better for us to push to here. No, push to these two. These two provinces here are key for defense this way, because this province can only be attacked from this province, and this province up here can only be attacked from here. Well, as I'm looking, but you see, if we come, well, these, because if we fall back to here, either one, there's always going to be one province can be hit from two positions. Where if we're here, obviously we have to defend way out into here, and they can concentrate forces and swing around. Like I was saying, I let you paradrop behind them, funnily enough, and take the port. Well, paradrop, that's another option if we have that. Germany, I think I'd do a better job at paradropping, but looking at that better. If you can concentrate your forces, like, hey, yeah, we've got 3 British armored divisions, put them here, because you can either attack here or here, and you can defend here. And so they have to make each one of these 3 provinces, and particularly these 2 provinces, strong enough to defend. And of course, if they start shifting forces into here from these other places, you can then do probing attacks to try to keep them from shifting their forces and break through. But if you're on a narrow front, you just stack, I don't know, 6 divisions here and 6 divisions here, and you just hold out with a couple of divisions, in the reserve to move up as needed, and replace divisions that loses their organizations. Matildas are very much pain to fight. Oh, of course they are. So yeah, I don't know how well we're going to be in doing this, but we will look at that. This has been a lot of analytical, and this is going to be an analytical episode of our strategy. So we're building 2 infantry divisions. This is still just 38. Now remember, our war doesn't start at least until 1940 something, so we're still quite a ways out. But okay, we've got lots of infantry equipment. Not enough motorized or support equipment. That's going to be more of the pain. Okay, so what we want to do here is find support equipment here. Let's add 2 factories there. Let's look at our light machine guns. Okay, we got 1,000. I don't know quite how many divisions used, but I think we have enough to go to newer models. I think we're just going to keep the artillery, even though some of it is outdated, some of it isn't. Just in production, so that they are cranking them out. Okay. Right. Well, I think we're going to end this analytical episode, not the live stream or anything like that. But for now, so thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and you can do all that if you're live now. But see you next time for more, yes, even more Hearts of Iron. Okay, I'll be back in just a moment, and we will continue the live stream. Let you look. I like to set the keyboard aside here. Let you have a nice picture of what the rainy Mediterranean right now. June 10th is when Italy, yes, declared war on Britain and France. Basically, it's at the point that it is clear that France has lost the Battle of France, that Italy comes in. And whether in playing a game like this you want to base it on the historical date or you want to base it on the historical conditions, that is sort of what we're looking at doing. That's what I'm looking at doing. Yeah. Mussolini wants to get in the war, but Italy is just not prepared for a world war. It just wasn't for a major war. Well, let's start another episode. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4, and in this series we're looking at World Ablaze, playing as Italy, seeing how it does as a mod. I do like Uncharted's work. Have some disagreements, like just sort of as at the end of that is that he's done this province here in whatever Mercer Maruth area, that is the specific city, to level 3 fortification. I don't think so. I just don't think so. Level 3. I know there were some defenses here, but it just seems awfully much. Seems awfully much. Okay, we have decisions available. Anything I want to do now? Cheat on treaties? No, not particularly at the moment. Establish. So we could establish this. Establish Italian East Africa. Light infantry. No, I don't know. I don't know. We can do this a bit later. I am pulling out a bunch of my forces for use in other theaters. We don't need to keep using them here. Right, let's look over here. We're doing military modernization, which of course is good. We can see about Libyan infrastructure, Libyan refineries, which will get us some oil. We went this route, so we can't do that. Develop the steelworks, just sort of looking at planning. Okay, do we have a Ethiopian war logistics? Develop Ethiopia. East Africa exist. I guess this is 70 days if we want to exploit Ethiopia. East Africa. Well, maybe we should. I don't know. Just civilian infrastructure, which won't get them much. Okay, 2 military, 1 military, so 3 military factories. So therefore, we would send them, create them some force. They'd have some military, 3 military factories. I don't know. Might be better to do it earlier than later, but I don't know. Let's continue our war in Spain. By the way, I helped test some of the Italy tree all the way through. Very good harmony. A lot of economic fatigue. Yeah, that's my major point of disagreement with overplays, crumbling economy, exploit. Significantly decreases economic fatigue by 5%. I disagree with the economic fatigue that he's looking at. Strategically bomb the forts to take care of them. Yeah, you could. I just don't know that I want to put that effort into bombing them, or think I should have to do that, because I don't think they're realistic. You know, something like Madrid was sort of fortified, if you will, during the Spanish Civil War. Maybe not with sort of what we think of as modern pop-up bunkers, but turning city blocks and whatnot. So, I don't know, Harmony, on here, you can see what the path that I've taken here. We went down this path for Italy. I don't know if this is the best one. We could do the Denali Steelworks. I don't know what you can see here. Leave the League of Nations, which we might want to do soon. Align with German. But we've done that now. For the here, nationalized steel industries massively decreases. Okay, so okay, well, what is our current economic? Okay, so we're at 68 stability factories. Okay, so now okay, I didn't know that we had to do that before Germany gets Austria, which is still should be a ways away if it's the historical date. Okay. I don't know, and I mean this because I'm not anywhere near and I don't know if I'm an expert on National Socialist Germany, but I know the most about it of the European nations at this time. I don't know that there was significant economic fatigue because what Mussolini was doing in Italy. I don't know that there was. I haven't talked to him in years, but I did have a fascist advisor. I don't know that he was a fascist, but he was an Italian who studied fascist Italy on some of the stuff and really helped me with my mod development in the Italian area. So I don't know that there was what we would call economic fatigue with what Mussolini was doing leading up to World War II. Okay. I don't know that there was. Now, maybe somebody out there will go, oh, there was, and give reasons or point to some article. So I don't know if somebody has an article, somebody's watching this now or later and has an article or a book that they want to talk about the Italian economy and go, yeah, there was all this kind of, whether you call it fatigue or whatever, disruption, whatever the language you want to use, but what fatigue is setting up and doing, whether there was the fatigue going on. And what part of it is sort of, is government spending on military development that is not economically, doesn't benefit, like adding new, commercial trucks to the economy, or building something that civilians are going to spend their money on. It's, government spending on government things is sort of the basic idea of it, at least as I understand it. Some, could do. Okay, yeah, okay. He did have that horrible lira to the British pound rate. Okay, now this is one thing, and I've talked to several of them, including Uncharted, in the past. Because yeah, he's been on. I played War Thunder with him. I know Uncharted. Uncharted is a great guy. I just have, and not that he's 100% wrong. I just have disagreements on the emphasis levels of some of these things. Germany had plenty of German money. Plenty of German money. Now, Germany had recently gone through 2 phases after World War I of hyperinflation, 2 sets of them. So they knew about government spending, printing too much money and have hyperinflation. They knew about that. They knew what that could happen. They specifically, including Schacht, Helmar Schacht, who, until the sort of leading up to the war, he's still in charge of the banks, as the German Reichsbank, though he had left the main economic minister job, but he's still in charge of that. He understands money and economies. He's very good. He is the best leading German personality. He wasn't really a Nazi. He was there before the Nazis come in power. He stays for a while, sort of loses out to Goering a bit, but stays in charge of the Reichsbank until, I think it was something going on in Czechoslovakia or whatever, that he finally just quits over and just goes into retirement. He's not a Nazi. He's a German patriot, if you will, or whatever. German nationalist, maybe, however you want to describe it. And so, and so again, like I say, not Nazi, but he understands economies best. But he doesn't know that they're planning a major war. So some of his decisions in Germany are based upon what is good economically, not what is good preparing the nation for a coming major war. He's all good with the idea, yeah, we need to rebuild the German army to defend Germany, but he's not like, yeah, we want to go conquer the world and mass kill people. He's not in all of that. And so Germany has plenty of German money, effectively, and through Schacht and some others, know how to keep hyperinflation from happening. Okay, so meaning not have wild government spending. What Germany doesn't have is a good foreign exchange values. They're not having a big income. British pounds, French francs, American dollars. Well, actually, they do sort of have American dollars sort of cycling through their system, but that's another story. They don't have a lot of foreign exchange. They don't have a lot of gold reserves to exchange. And Britain isn't buying a bunch of German products, so they're not interested in German marks, Reichsmarks. So, somebody goes, yeah, I want to buy a bunch of radios made in Britain. Oh, I got these bucketfuls of Reichsmarks. Well, what good is that going to do to me? Because there's nothing in Germany I want to buy. And there are currency controls and they can't just run to the bank and exchange that for British pounds, because Germany is controlling the exchanges. And there's, the banks go, well, we don't want all these German Reichsmarks because we don't know anybody who wants to buy anything in Germany. And it's only really good for the money if you want to buy something in Germany. So yeah, some tourists are going, British tourists are going, so we'll take some of your Reichsmarks, but, we don't need buckets full of them, to buy whatever. So Germany has a serious problem with foreign exchange. And I don't specifically know about the lira to British pound rate, but that type of thing only affects if you're doing international exchanges. So if Italy is trying to buy something from Britain, or some other country that's willing to accept British pounds and they want to exchange liras for pounds, it absolutely affects them. Okay, so there is that, but you can easily go to hyperinflation. Thanks, Arno. So, the economic fatigue. This is what I'm just looking at here. Okay, so now have I, and not that the mod shouldn't, because you might go, well, you know, Italy didn't develop the Denali Steelworks, but they could have. And they should have. Maybe they could. I never even heard of this until this mod. So this, I'm telling you, I'm not, you know, I've never heard of Denali Steelworks. I'm not saying it doesn't exist or anything. I hadn't heard of it. So again, I've heard of some of the stuff. I know bits and pieces about this. I don't know everything. So don't take this as somebody who thinks he knows everything and then telling you're full of shit. And I'm wrong. I don't know. Okay, so develop Denali Steelworks. I'm presuming it existed. Did Italy develop Denali Steelworks, or is it something they could have done? You know, reasonably could have done. Okay, either one is a good thing to add here. Either if they did, or if they could have or should have. Here's your opportunity to do so. Perfectly fine, perfectly good. Okay, again, develop Sicily, develop these areas. I don't know if they developed Sicily and added 4 civilian factories. Mussolini locked up somewhere between, I don't know, probably 300 to 600 people that are believed to be, probably very much were, associated with the mafia down in Sicily, and just sort of without trial locked them up because no one would testify, so they just sort of created a prison camp, not a prisoner of war camp, not so much a concentration camp, but just a prison camp. Put him in prison just for being suspected of being mafioso. Now, it wasn't like, hey, yeah, he has a funny Italian mustache, he must be a mafia. No, it's people knew, but no one was going to testify. And so Mussolini just locks up these people down in Sicily and whatnot because they are mafia. Now, the U.S. government later on liberates these camps and lets them go in hopes and in reality, because they hate the fascists now because they've been locked up for a number of years, to help the Americans in occupation duties of all types, but of course they've unleashed the mafia and empowered the mafia to get back in control in southern Italy during their invasions. And because they're the collaborators with the Americans backed them, whatever, and the mafia gets back in control. And so the Americans really put the mafia back on the map in Italy, which I think they're still there because of what the Americans did. We can talk about whether you should just lock up people for suspicion or not, you know, and an organized state, an organized alternative government, which is what I would call the mafia was in southern Italy, is a danger to the state. It isn't just criminals. It's an insurgency of a type. And you can't have to fight a proper insurgency, and I would put the mafia in Sicily and whatever as an insurgency. And it does sort of start as an insurgency against the sort of earlier Bourbon, the sort of foreign Bourbon rulers, more Spanish than French by that point, in there. So it is sort of a local resistance to foreign rulership in Italy. It's an insurgency movement, so you can't fight a strong insurgency with rules of evidence like we have normal court systems. So, yeah, we messed up with releasing the mafia back onto Italy. So, yeah, and they still have the problems today, and it's still sort of an insurgency. Because if you testify, somebody's going to die. Whether it's you or your kids or your wife or your brother or whatever, it's a serious problem. So, as you can tell, I sort of kind of support, and I don't know in detail, maybe they overdid it, the fascists. Maybe they did it just the right amount. Maybe they didn't do it enough, but they were fighting some of these political prisoners that Mussolini. Now there are some political types that just get killed because they're opposition. You know, somebody points a pistol in their face and shoots them and disappears, and they were opposition. There is some of that going on just because they were, you know, and they weren't necessarily, you know, radical communist insurgents or whatever going to take over Italy. They were just opposition people to fascist rule that did get shot. I'm not saying the fascists were the good guys, but maybe in some cases they were the lesser of the bad guys, meaning there were worse bad guys going on in Italy, and, you know, the one you know, level 5 bad guys takes out level 7 bad guys kind of thing. They're all bad guys, but sometimes you deal with the lesser of the bad guys because there's maybe ineffective in power, no good guys to deal with. That's the way the world works. Modern social justice warrior types and we should only deal with the good white hats out there in the world. Well, what if you can't find any in a part of the region that can be effective? Okay, so yeah, I do sort of kind of a bit defend some of the fascist state and what they were doing. I know that will be clipped maybe someday and taken out of context, but the world is messy. Right. And yes, the fascists end up being our, in Italy, our opponents, and we need to, take them out. All right. Okay. So I don't know the levels of economic fatigue for what was going on in Italy. I just don't know. Okay. So I don't know which one of these two is closest to what historically they did. I think I picked these just... I liked the path the best when I was examining them. Okay. So, did I push and do something here to create my 68% level of economic fatigue that is greater than what Mussolini faced? I don't know. Again, I'm not. This isn't like when I was going hard after Uncharted and World Ablaze for Germany, because I know that better. I don't know this well. But I have a suspicion that I wouldn't put it this high of economic fatigue going on, because I don't think there was. Again, note my language. I don't know, I don't think, I'm not sure, those kind of things. Right, okay. Now, Navy hurts you fatigue a lot as well. Okay. Okay, now, nationalize failing steel industries, nationalize failing weapons industries, nationalize failing chemical industries, nationalize failing banks. Okay, I don't know about banks. Honestly, I don't know about chemical industries. I do, well, because I didn't know about Denali steel, so I'm not sure about steel. But I do know that Italy never nationalized any of the weapons industries, period. And I believe they did not do any of the other industries. Mussolini's government, one, did not believe in nationalization of industries. Two, was unable to control the industries to the levels that they wanted to, because they were a corporate state. They were, and not necessarily corporate as in business. That's often people mistake the use of the term of corporate within the Italian fascist model. But corporations, and they look at these as corporations, not as business corporations, but as a body, as a corporation of a body, like a human body. You have some guys that are the brains of the corporation, but it could be sort of, I guess another term would be community. A modern term that they may use is the fascists look at communities. And it's the communities of, say, a factory town or whatever, and it may, maybe part of a suburb of a thing, that you have a big industry and a lot of people work there. Some are the brains, some are the enforcers, the guards, some are the, the hard worker bees, some are the less, the skilled worker bees. And some of them are the people that run the restaurants right outside the factory that they go get lunch at. And some of the people are the garbage collectors that come by and, pick up the garbage from the back of the factory and from the back of the restaurant. That's when we're saying corporatism with fascism is what we're talking about. And yes, part of it is the business corporation, but it's corporatism. It's the way the fascists look. They look at it as, I'm trying to explain my understanding of fascism, which is not, again, those that haven't watched my series, I go into it, National Socialism that the Nazis of Hitler things. You can call other things National Socialist, but the National Socialism of Hitler's is not fascism, is not based on fascism, has some similar characteristics like ultranationalism. Both are socialistic in view, but they're not. Nazism isn't simply fascism plus racism. That's how it was explained to me in school. It is not that. They have a different way of looking at economies and society. My understanding of Italian fascism at this time is it's sort of this corporatism. And so nothing above the state, because the state is what represents the people. Okay? It's not that the state is supposed to be like the power that dominates the people. No, it's the power of the people is expressed through the state. So nothing should be above the state, meaning your personal interests should not come before the interests of the state. So you should get married and have children because it helps the society, the state. So they look at this kind of way. So don't have a social life that disrupts the good of the state, because it disrupts the good of the society, good of the people, and nothing should be above that. So you should conform to the needs of the state, because that is the needs of the people. That is their socialism that fascism sees. But it also understands that it's corporate is on a lower level. So Tuscany, what is good for Tuscany should do, so long as it doesn't hurt the good of all of Italy. So meaning if you set up the body corporation, if you will, of Tuscany, not just of Florence or Pisa or whatever in Tuscany, but we're talking about the Tuscan region here, it's its own sort of corporatism, meaning you need garbage collectors, you need railway workers, you need police, you need all these elements of the corporation, you need industry. Now, fascism doesn't want the other socialism of collective. They believe in it is a collectivist ideology, because I'm saying it's corporate, but it's not collectively owned in the sense. Now, again, a corporation may sell public shares and people may own shares and get dividends from. We should probably to say, well, you say, well, see, this makes me, because I know enough history and I know enough the ideology, when I see nationalize, I go, well, they didn't do that, so I shouldn't do this, because this is unhistorical. Now, I don't know, so when you use terms like nationalize, I think, oh, government takeover. They did not. The government wanted the industries, and this is why I know the weapons industries better, wanted them to build German models of tanks. Ensemble Fiat, which again, Harmony, you may have heard my rant about how Ensemble Fiat is a joint venture, not two different ones. When it comes to, where are we looking at? Here, you don't have Fiat and Ensemble Fiat as one. It's not two, it's one. When it comes to tanks, they're a joint venture. They set up a joint company that's Ensemble Fiat. The RIR. Please define the RIR for me. Maybe I've heard of it. I'm blanking on that, Harmony. But the government basically wants to have them build German models of tanks. And Ensemble Fiat go, yeah, no, we'll design our own. And that's, we'll come up with our own. Partly it's, Istituto per la Ricostruzione Industriale. Okay, I don't know it. Sorry. I don't know Italy like I know Germany, but I know the industry basically tells the government to go stuff it. We're not going to try to copy German. We're not going to have German technical people come in and tell us how to run our business and effectively take over our industry. Is how they saw it. And so they basically tell no. And so Mussolini and the fascists are walking this line between what they want to do in ideology, in the ideal of fascism, and the reality of Italy at the time. I almost said Germany, but the Italy at the time. And Mussolini never gets fully in control. He is El Duce, but there's a king above him. So yeah, he's El Duce, but the army is loyal to the king. Yes, they put a lot of fascist units into the military that are loyal to El Duce, but the army as an institution is still loyal to the king. It was made to try to rescue, restructure, finance banks and private companies that went through bankruptcy during the Great Depression. Ended up owning a lot of it in the end. Like I say, I don't know Italy like I know Germany. I mean, I know bits and pieces that I can talk with some level of authority on, or if you will, but I don't know that the story as well as maybe I should. I mean, I should know everything in the world that ever existed, of course. I'd love to, but I don't, obviously. So no, I don't know Italy all that well, and I do know that in a way, in a functional way, the German state often sort of ends up owning a lot of businesses towards the end of the war. But that's not what Hitler wanted, because Hitler wants competition. Hitler, unlike Mussolini, Hitler wants not capitalist competition, but he wants institutional competition. So he wants, let me get two examples here, like Messerschmitt and Focke-Wulf, the two fighter companies, to both be trying to make better fighters than each other. He wants that sort of conflict between them. So he wants multiple companies competing with each other, multiple institutions, even government institutions, competing and clashing with each other to try to figure out the best and keep them strong. That is different ideologically than the sort of corporate social harmony that fascism wants to have within their society. And so it's really only because of the great pressures of the war and Speer that we'll say effectively, even though they may still technically be private companies in many cases, ends up controlling them. And when they're building some of their underground factories, even though they're bringing in workers from, specialist workers and slave labor from the various factories, and they may still have a factory label above the door of the underground, jet factory that Speer is building. It's effectively a government / SS run and owned business. So that is, but that is not what Hitler wants. That's sort of the pressures of the war. So yeah, it was a lot of research. It lasted until 2000, but it was getting more privatized. But it was getting more privatized. Yeah, so I don't know Italy well, and I'm taking your word, Harmony. I believe you're correct. So yeah, I look at that and I look at nationalize and I go, now save failing, okay. And so I look at these kind of things and I play from my understanding of history and what I should do. And sometimes there's bad cases for nationalizing something. Now, this would use 10 civilian factories for 60 days. 10 civilian factories for 60 days. Now, I have 35. Now, okay, so even if I have, which I have a lot of political power, well, we'll nationalize then. Well, that's 20. Okay, some of these are 10, so let's do the 10. We'll do chemical. Now, I have noted that you have not done any of the economic, well, yes, you do have economic development. Sorry, you do have economic development of Libya that they were doing down there in a fashion, because they were doing a lot of fourth shore development. Okay, well, let's get back to playing the game. Good to hear. And so, yeah, I just... Okay. Let's see, where do we want to... Okay, up here, Lombardy. And so next, after this one, I guess we should jump over here, leave League of Nations, and then do the German Alliance. 14 days. Okay. We can do that. We have the manpower. And yes, that's very appropriate that it should be done. But you... Because again, and I don't know if Uncharted has ever taken the time to look at my mod for Hearts of Iron 3. Okay, so, wow, that's happening early. I don't think it was January 30th. It was much later. I'm pretty sure. I'm going off memory here. Despite our guarantees of independence of Austria, it was... okay, yeah. Gain base stability. We were too late, but that is awfully early. Now, okay, here is the thing, and like I have built, and I don't know all of watching, because I got a lot of people that haven't been around Hearts of Iron 3. I built, I think, and well, people say, let me put it this way, people say a very good mod for Hearts of Iron 3 that focuses on Germany called Third Reich Events. Now, I have worked out with some of the other nations and had some advisors that helped me. And to get some of the stuff developed, and I mainly looked at Czechoslovakia, but an unreleased work that I'm slowly putting back into Hearts of Iron 3 is Germany's process of getting Anschluss. Now, for Anschluss to happen, okay. Here's the fault of this mod here. And again, I don't know how much research you guys have done. In January or February of January or February of 1936, in Venice, Mussolini signs the Three Powers Pact. That is an anti-German, anti-Nazi pact. It is signed between Italy, Austria, and Hungary. The Fatherland Front, what's his name? I'm forgetting. Head of the Fatherland Front, the Austrian fascist leader, because it was in Austria. The main fight was between fascism and National Socialism. It was not. I mean, because it was you're either going to be fascist or you were going to be a National Socialist. Those were the two. 70-day focus. It will fire on the date, I think. Hello, Ace. How you doing? Thank you, Arno. Always going to add to it. Your wiki. Oh, yes. Well, hi, Eric. Yeah. Yeah, Dolphus. That's right. Dolphus. Schischnig is the one who was shot earlier in, 1933. Dolphus is there. He signs it along with a representative of the foreign minister, I believe, of Hungary, signs the Three Powers Pact. Italy is, in 1936, because of what's happened earlier in the Saarland, and then about that time, with remilitarizing all of the Rhineland, Italy who has been in an alliance with England and France. Even though it was fascist, it was allied with England and France, has become unsure of France's willing to fight if there's a conflict between Italy and Germany. And of course, Italy does not want to lose its former Austrian possessions to the Austrian-born leader of Germany. You can see how this is a problem for them. And so Mussolini looks and realizes that Austria makes a great buffer state, and Dollfuss wants to, maintain his fascist support with the Fatherland Front in Austria. And I'm not sure exactly why Hungary wants to sign up a anti-German National Socialist alliance, but they do. Whether they think that's going to legitimize them because they're sort of illegitimate government and they want to get back pieces of their lost territory, whether they think by joining this it will help them, I don't know. But they get talked into it. And this is signed in the very beginning of 1936 as specifically directed at anti-German expansion to the south. So, if you're designing this mod right, you should have guarantee independence of Austria and Hungary by Italy. So if Germany does Anschluss, it goes to war. So what I worked on was, and what you see historically, was Hitler wooing Mussolini in that, no, I'm not going to take back Tyrol, I'm not going to take back Trieste. And hey, you remember your former allies that have embargoed you and whatnot over Ethiopia. I don't care about you taking Ethiopia or Albania or some other vague little place around the world. Don't really care, as long as you don't mess with German lands, whatever that may mean at different times. And so Hitler's, wooing, courting Mussolini, and it is only Mussolini's acceptance that allows, and there isn't necessarily a formal renunciation of the Three Powers Pact, but that is what allows Hitler to move in to Austria finally. So there really, really should be something from Germany that is showing up here to do that. It's a rework again in the DLCs too, so might fix some stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I sort of kind of think Black Ice does it right in that they ignore the paid DLCs and just deal with the sort of free rework of mechanics, shall we say, and just do your own stuff instead of relying upon Paradox to add some cool elements that then... Now, I'm not saying if they add something that's cool, then you don't sort of kind of add it to your mod, but yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on that. So not so much waiting for that. And just so that we have this. Oh, nuke bonuses, yeah. Yeah, I have not bought the latest DLC for Bulgaria and whatnot. I just haven't seen a need to do so, because I did not play the base game, and mostly I'm playing modded games that. So I hope your mod isn't expecting that I have the DLC that's the Bosphorus, the Battle for the Bosphorus DLC, the paid part. I have the free update part, but I did not get that because Black Ice doesn't require it, and I just hadn't felt a strong enough need to do it. Standardizing infrastructure, very nice. Okay. Now 38. Yeah, let's do research speed bonus. Well, it's been going since 36, so... Hello. Oh boy, without spacing. Gonkaloge, or whatever. I'm gonna call you Gonkal. Sorry if I... Hello. Just, okay, Gonk. Okay, Gonk. I can do that. So you don't need it. Good to hear. Yeah, you know, it came out, I saw what it was. I go, yeah, I'm play so much Hearts of Iron, but do I really need it yet? I'll wait for a sale maybe, or if I really need it for something. Good to hear. Obviously I'm getting free updates. But when they've bigger, more important ones I have bought. I got the Field Marshals edition when it, or you know, or whatever, you know, expansion pack stuff. So I was getting all of the ones for free at start, and then, you know, well, not free, I prepaid for them. So I don't want to say free, but prepaid for them. And then I bought one of the one major one after that. Getting Lend-Lease. I don't think I'm sending any Lend-Lease to Spain because I'm trying to do that, but I have 4 divisions operating in here. It's going to hopefully turn the tide. Oh, is commies getting, I don't know if they're getting Lend-Lease. Trying to push across here to create a pocket to cut off these forces. I had been pushing, try to take the rest of Madrid here, the Madrid airport area, but decided, no, we're going to push here and cut them off. Well, we're going to make sure we in the Condor Legion over here, the 8th Panzer Grenadier Division. Don't know why it's called that when there's no Panzers and Grenadiers in it, but whatever. You're going to make sure the Nationalists win. We've already got Spain. We're pushing into here. The Army Modernization decisions. Okay, yes, I'm probably forgetting those. Army Reform. Okay. Good. And Air Force Reform. You know, I'm not terribly in favor of this type of thing. I know a lot of players, and myself included, have gotten sort of annoyed at pop-ups popping in the center, and they overreacted by moving the stuff over here, and I'm not used to seeing it. Part of the problem with pop-ups, because I was last night playing Imperator Rome, I think a pretty damn good game. There's still problems with it, but pretty damn good game. Is that I'm going to click on something here, and then something pops up immediately on top of it. And what did I just click? I want the pop-ups to sort of not pop up in the center, but some of these notification things, just for me, get lost here. Now, do we have any generals I can give better traits to use up some of this command? Okay, he looks like he's fully... Nope, he's not ready yet. Enrique angry guy there. Let's. Okay.
Comandi.
We're going to create a unit just of these guys. Old guard, cautious. Yeah, I mean, they're all going to be war hero, career officer, politically connected. He's looking like maybe the good choice here because he's an infantry officer and we're talking about infantry divisions. Yeah, he's politically connected, but so he's going to not get experience gained so quickly. But that level 3. So yeah, we'll go with you. All right, let's create a higher command here. Pietro Bagdaglio or Emilio Di Bono. He looks way too old. Maybe not that old, just a white beard. But old guard, cautious, politically connected. Yeah, inflexible strategists. These are, yeah, probably rather decent traits for them. Okay. Yeah, I guess he's going to control. Now we're going to see about creating.
Ordini.
No, shift. That's what I want to be doing.
Pronto.
Let's create a mountain division command here. Army reassignment duration, promotion cost. Do we have a fascist loyalist? Yeah. Taglio Balbo, who may or may not have been assassinated by Mussolini. I don't think so. I think it was just purely a an oopsie with anti-aircraft guns, but people thought enough at the time that he might have been, because he was maybe getting more popular than Mussolini. Okay, we don't really have a proper mountain general. I think that's a mistake for Italy because Italy definitely had experienced mountain officers and leaders. Okay, we're going to also create here a fascist command. And we're going to put on our fascist loyalist in command of that. Now we'll wait till the Spanish Civil War is over and deal with some of that. Yeah, I'm not saying you should be good generals, but just sort of the idea that some should, because they were a lot of experience in mountain warfare, there should be a few with that type of trait. Casualties in the war so far. Yeah, which one is it? Country. Wars, yeah, okay. Spanish Civil War. Okay, we can see this here. 90,000 versus almost 300,000 losses. Oh, 100,000 versus almost 300,000 losses. Currently in the Spanish Civil War. Hardcode, yeah, there's a lot of hard-coded stuff that's bad. We tried to make it better. Yeah, he's a good. Yeah, I'm not saying the Italian again, I'm not terribly great expert on Italian generals. I could pull out my book on the Iron Arm and name get a few that I'd have to look through it a bit, but get a few that were armored officers, armored generals that have some training and experience. Not that they would be good at it, but probably should have the trait. And I'm sure, because again, Italy is quite mountainous, and there was officers experienced in mountain warfare, whether they, and remember, there were Alpini divisions in the Italian army. Alpine division, but Alpini here. Alpina, whatever. There were these, but basically all infantry divisions had mountain guns and were expected to fight in the mountains. They just weren't the elites and best trained at doing it. So you have a lot of the ones that fought the Germans and Austrians along the Austrian border during World War One, and there has to be some that should come out and have mountain warfare traits just to fight better there. They still may be sucky generals, skill level 1, maybe even skill level 0, I don't know, but some should have that trait to deal with that kind of thing. But yeah, going to use your generals that are we're going to use those, but for some of the stuff in North Africa, I'm thinking down here. How's the war in China going? We'll take a quick look. Yeah, Japan is doing good. They've obviously did a nice naval invasion here. Earlier on, they did a naval invasion out here and pushed in through here. So yeah, they're doing, fairly well invasion type stuff, fairly smart. You have an Alpini focus, yeah. I did see that at one point here. I don't know, yeah. Yeah, I have not searched my way through, obviously I haven't played through yet, but I haven't even searched my way through all of the continued development of the L. Now that we're getting some of these things. And I really do appreciate that not all of these are 70 days. Oh, they rebuild the Alpini, right? Some of these are 70 days, and I don't know if they should be. Because, honestly... Look, I talked to Podcat now years ago about the national focuses. And because I had worked so much with events and creating event change, just those of you who again haven't played it, I don't like the idea of having one event or one national focus, build West Wall, being hit, magic West Wall appears. Yeah, there's maybe some costs, but do it. And yeah, I know there's some, upgrade the West Wall. Yeah, okay. And then upgrade it a second time. Yeah, okay. But I've looked into the history of the development of it, and it takes about 3 years to build it. Or they're building it strong for 3 years. And they expand it all the way up to here. And part of the program expands deep into here of anti-aircraft, primarily. Defenses, around... anything worth, putting heavy anti-aircraft around, whether it's factories, just cities, or other such stuff. Okay, I like event change. That you start down, you can have not just that, an event happens and something happens, but also you can go, do you want to expand, after you've done it? And it was explained to me, and Podcat explained to me, the national focus was one of the reasons they used this, instead of doing it the way I wanted to do it, was that so somebody can look here and go, I want this. I want the extra research slot. Well, how do I get there? Well, here's a roadmap. And so that, to me, I understood, and it clicked for me what really this should be. Not the way necessarily that Paradox is using it, but the way it should be. Is that you should go, okay, do you want to develop Italian highways? Well, because you want to get to here. Okay, you hit yes. And however long it takes, you may have some of these national focus that take a long time. But a lot of them should just sort of happen. But let's say develop Sicily. Not that I'm concerned about this thing, but just say instead of these, it may all be 10 days. But the idea that develop Sicily can only happen in, say, March 38. So you might be able to pop through some of these, time-wise, so may not be happening, waiting for the next one to happen, is that some things, now some of them might have, just have different preconditions, but might not be able to happen before a certain date. So, yes, choices is not the idea that I think I should be able to have all of this, partially because some of these are mutually exclusive with each other, Go to war with Italy or go to war with Germany or go to war or befriend Germany. You can't do both, But should I be worried about 35 days to leave the League of Nations? Huh? Why? Huh? What? It should be. Now, maybe there either a date for some historical reason, or it should be, hey, yeah, you want to befriend Yugoslavia, then you get out of the League of Nations. Or, now, I would have befriend Yugoslavia reduce economic fatigue, because there was significant, once, just again, from my research, is once they put the embargoes against Italy for the invasion of Ethiopia, Italy starts buying a lot of food products, wheat and whatnot, from Yugoslavia in some commercial agreements. And that's sort of befriend Yugoslavia. So that should help the Italian economy with its food needs during this period. So that might be a good way to reduce in future. Have a thing that reduces your economic fatigue is befriend Yugoslavia. So I can readily, I could see this as just simply a standalone over here. Hey, leave whenever you want because you're fascist Italy and you say goodbye. Or, hey, again, there may be, well, because of historical precedent, they needed to establish these other things, and then you get to go. 35 days. Why the time? I don't know. I mean, there may be good reason, but maybe just like that. Now, befriend Germany, or alliance with Germany, requires leaving the League of Nations. That's fine as a prerequisite. It doesn't quite yet go to Pact of Steel, of course, but have more prerequisites, and that's why I like 14 days or something. It's just a little bit of time. It's worth doing. Some of these are major projects. I get, major, production, represented, so it should take time. But some of these should be just sort of days fast, but maybe whether date and or other conditions need to prevail to do them. Okay, yes, there's an Ethiopian-Italian veteran that created a theory of war movement for the Italian cars tanks warfare, although he died in North Africa in 42 during the ironic attack where he used mass assaults like it was World War I. How interesting. Yes, I guess Italy never let you down your expectations yet. Yeah, I think we need to redo it times again. Yeah, it's just, there's our duty focus is my favorite focus in the tree. Yeah, okay. Let's just see. Where right, left, center? Where are we looking for that? I know you're much more familiar with this, and that's one of the reasons I'm playing this, is just to learn about it and show this off to people. I know in BI when you pick the West Wall fort, it does cost you civ factories for period. Well, you see now what you can do is you can under the Alpini. Okay, that gets me here. Okay, revive the Arditi completion. Water training. Okay, yeah. Okay, these are the commando, sort of like the Decima X. Is that what this is sort of like? That, and so my idea with doing a national focus doesn't necessarily mean that you don't. Now, the way I worked a lot of stuff is, and I wanted to use the sort of pop-up method and not this method here, but when you complete a national focus, because of the roadmap, and so I often would shrink the times down in the work that I did, again unreleased, but and no longer works with more modern versions of the game, but would then pop up something like this, or a pop-up that then would set conditions that would cost you 5 civ factories for 100 days. So there's still the cost involved. It's just the national focus wouldn't necessarily take a lot of time or have other costs, but it would then fire or trigger the availability of, or immediate happening of, other events and decisions to make that they would then have the costs. So you may be spending a bunch of civ factories and repairing your industry and whatnot here, but you're able to also progress through, political development. So it's not like, hey, you just go click, 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 and these all instantly happen. It's like click, oh, and then this one has to wait for, the next one can only happen, 300 days later than this one. So you can't rush them. I mean, they all take 5 days to happen, but this one has to happen 300 days after the first one. So it's like every 300 days you get to pick one, maybe, just in theory. But it only takes 5 days to complete the focus. So that's the way I envisioned in reworking the national focus tree is definitely not the standard 70 days completion time going through, but still give the player a roadmap that then fires other things. So it's not necessarily the choice between developing this or befriending Germany. It's, do you want to add 3 steel mills for some other cost or something? And that's how I worked it up. You have Decima X as well. Yeah, sorry, I have not looked through all of this. Is that more into the Navy? Yeah. There we go. See, I do know a bit about Italy, but not, like I say, I'm not an expert at all. I wish we could multitask focus. Well, the whole idea was, Johan said, this is the national focus of the nation, so you can't do more than one at a time. Well, okay, I disagree with that, and that's why I say, like, if you were fortification, improve the Alpine line, improve the Gothic line. Gothic is down in central, more for southern invasion, the Alpine. And of course, there were French borders already on forts on the borders. It should just be adding to them. But, because they were built beforehand. Even though they were allies, they still had fortifications. And so it's, and a lot of times I would have it, oh yeah, improve the fort. So the way I did it for the West Wall, which is similar to this, is you get this, pop, takes however many days to do it, but then nothing. You may have an effect like, requires more civilian factories, civilian factory, takes away civ factories from doing other things. And then a year later, boom, you get your West Wall. So you may start your West Wall in 37, and you get stage 1 built in 38. And you want to continue building in the beginning of 38. Okay. And, so you do that second event or whatever because you started the national focus tree. Or if you want to add a second national focus for strengthen West Wall. Okay. You do it. Okay, boom. But there's nothing happens, in the idea, no forts appear. It's like, okay, yeah, well, at the beginning of 39 now, you'll get your forts. Because, you say, this will take, 365 days to complete. So that you started it in the beginning of 38. By the beginning of 39 or whatever, roughly, you'll have stage 2 of West Wall. That's the way I developed using national focuses. So instead of press button, wait 70 days, pop, get results, it was press button to plan your path out. And some of these things might take a year, might take a day, might take 3 months, whatever it is. And setting either conditions of other national focuses or control. You can't fire the national focus to develop Albania until you own Albania. And if you don't have an event or whatever to take Albania until 1938 or 1939 or whatever, obviously you can't do it early. You can't rush that. And so that kind of thing. And, there are choices. You can't, it's not pick choice, get all that you want. It's more the idea of that they don't necessarily, things that aren't in conflict don't do it. And also some of the times with some of the stuff, you just simply go, oh yeah, well, to do Denali Steelworks here, you have to have available, say, 3 civ factories available. You know, here, not doing consumer goods. You have to have 3 civ factories, and then we're going to reduce it by 3 civ factories. And so you can't, even if you have 20 things that improve the economy, you can't do them all at once, because the requirement is you have enough civ factories to do it, and if you hit more than 2 or 3, you don't have enough civ factories, so it requires you to take your time to do it because it pulls civ factories out. So it's, you know, might be a linear progression, might be a horizontal thing, you know, like improve the army or improve that, but they each take civ factories, so you still have to make your choice. But it's not necessarily a choice on the countdown clock to war. It's more of a choice on, do you want to build up the Navy or build up the Air Force, kind of thing. That's how I would do it. It's sort of like multitasking the national focuses, but not exactly multitasking the national focuses. Sort of to Eric's point. Hey Eric, if you want to pop a link into your Twitch channel, if people want to follow it, you know, I'll obviously open a new window, people, if you want to. He's a pretty good streamer. He does good. Eric does good 3D models, and as well as, you know, real physical models too, and sometimes makes those live on stream and whatnot. Yep, there you go. So if you're watching, go ahead and follow that and follow his channel so when he streams. Oil processing, better battlefield. Okay, so we've got that. Yeah, we'll do this. I just am an infrastructure player, and we were over, I think, here. Okay, we pushed into here, so that means we should now be able to do defense and depth. Recovery rate, defense, organization, delay, out of supply, max entrenchment. I guess I like elastic better. Sure thing, Arno. Thanks so much. The proxy war. Oh, cool. Eric is developing a wiki that alternative history based around Norway and a war with Norway versus Sweden. So you got to understand, there's no real difference between Norwegians and Swedes, except for one are called Norwegians and one are called Swedes. And the Norwegians resent that there's this nation called Sweden that's just like them on the other side of the mountain. So the Norwegians want to go to war with them. It's a weird thing, but it's, you know, yeah, okay, they have mountains, and Sweden mostly lives on flat plains, so they have the benefit of living on flat plains instead of living on the side of a mountain. But yeah, you know, they're sort of jealous of Sweden, and, you know. This looks good too. Defense, recovery rate. Well, we're probably going to lose that, so yeah, let's do more organization and... what's it not letting me do this for? Oh, what? I thought... Okay, Tier 2 becomes above Tier 1 doctrine has been completed, and/or Tier 1 doctrine is complete. Well, I thought it was just for here? Oh, we gotta do this over here before we come down here? I thought it was one straight down Column. Okay, well. Okay, well, let's do this. That sucks. Remember shift click. Oh, that's, oh, it works there too? Okay. Yeah, wasn't even thinking. It's 2 out of 3 needed. Oh, okay. Well then, okay, that's good to know. Let's maybe cancel this. Or switch it, I should say. Yeah, let's go. Let's switch to here. Yes, yes. 0 progress. I know. Okay, it's 2 out of 3. I just sort of presumed that it was, and I did read that quickly. It was just simply, you know, complete the infantry tree, you got it down to the other infantry tree. Yeah, but whatever. Get some more military factories going. And I do definitely recommend World Ablaze for those who don't want the, whether you want to call it added detail or added complications of the level of by whatever capitulates. Okay. Black Ice, then I would say World Ablaze is it. But I still currently like, though I rage quit at times on Black Ice 2, on the Solution of Austria, which we did not get our German alliance before. Okay, well, didn't quite work out as I hoped. Now let's go to there. No. To there, to there. There we go. No, we're gonna change this again. Keep coming to here, go to there.
Avanzate! Attento!
It would be helpful to have a notification somewhere, big bold letters somewhere come up and say, yes, it would be really, really good that you, well, now that they're there, we don't really want to go to there. I want to go to there, but they're delaying us. Damn, oh well. That you should get that done before 38. And Germany getting, this is awfully, I think it was a little later than March. I don't remember the date. Vanslush. League of Nations. I don't know if this will help or not, but we'll try it. Look at this political power. It's only 14 days. Just the German is just standing around doing nothing. Hi, German. You're helping, aren't you? You're special. You're helping. Okay, we're now aligned with German politics. Pact of Steel, maybe not yet. Albanian occupation. See, I think I'd rather have Denali Steelworks than Albanian occupation. Just looking through my current fighter contracts, general contracts. Like some of these things here that I maybe should pursue a little faster. Get down in here. Yeah, we'll just do general contracts, I think. Yeah, we'll do that.
Ordini.
This guy get reorganized up a bit. Active faction request. Okay, should we do that before the Pact of Steel, or will that... get bypassed? Yeah, remember we have a Finland tree for reasons. Okay, not quite sure, but yeah, I guess we'll join their faction. That was the plan, anyways. Ultimately, because alternative history is fun to play. I really like playing Kaiserreich. Not my favorite mod, but I really do like it. But my real test of anything is to play basically a historical game and see how well the mod does with that. What is our Air Force doing? Is that where our Air Force is? No. Our Air Force is over here. And these guys are completely, and I wanted to try to send them home, but they don't have any aircraft. So, well, these guys are also entirely out of aircraft. Wow. Wow. Probably nothing to do. Well, I don't know, entirely nothing to do, but somewhat nothing to do. 1.5 aircraft a month? Really, people? Really? That's... Yeah, well, we have more factories, yes. I guess we'll step this up to 2 factories. And it's still about 1.5. Favorite mod, big mod is Black Ice. This is coming in below that, maybe second to it. Does some things maybe a bit better. Probably has a better AI. Economic fatigue is hurting my production. Yeah, again, that's something I'm not happy about. You see, and again, I know with a lot of Hearts of Iron 4 players, and mod developers have not come out of the Hearts of Iron scene and have not Hearts of Iron 3 modding scene and have not played Black Ice for Hearts of Iron 3. It is an excellent mod. It is still better than anything done for Hearts of Iron 4. Okay, so you know, if you're playing a Hearts of Iron for World War II game, you're playing a second-rate grand strategy game for World War II. Hearts of Iron 3, Black Ice is still the best, people, is still the best. There's good, yeah, it's a bit bloated. So if you don't want the bloated Black Ice, check out World Ablaze. Most definitely. Okay. Now, what they did particularly for Germany, and it is just for Germany, is deal with, because they don't have a distinction between military and civilian ICs in Hearts of Iron 3. And because people could and were spamming out just building ICs for years and years, and then 39 shows up and then start building everything else, and they just have so many ICs and just cranked out the the products, whether it's aircraft, battleships, because they don't have shipyards either, so there's no definition there, but battleships, tanks, infantry units, whatever, just cranked everything out. So what the mod developers did do, and I did agree with, is for the different years, they put caps on ICs. And if you go more than whatever IC level it is for that year, you get, is in essence, you get a, what would equivalent of economic fatigue would be. It's done a bit differently, but you get that. And so that are sort of, basically it's dealing with hyperinflation and whatnot. They don't use the term economic fatigue, but it's sort of the equivalent, and they deal, because it's a different game and it's deal with it differently. So if you go over a certain amount of ICs and in 36, and then it's a larger number in 37, and it's a larger number in 38. The 38 and 39 are the same. Now once you get to the war in 1940, you can build as many ICs as you want, but you're presumably in the middle of the war, so you're also building tanks and aircraft and whatnot, and you go over there, and you have different sort of total war economy versus partial mobility. They have that too going on. And so that is how they deal with it. And so if the game is set up, and this is where I would agree, is that and I don't know that Italy would be able to do it, but say somebody like Germany, if they just completely just start spamming out like all of 19, we're able to spam out so many military ICs that just overpowers the situation, then yes, I would agree if they could. But because things are split between I guess you could convert these all back to civilian ICs. I don't know if can you convert? I never tried converting naval dockyards back to civilian ICs or something, but convert them all back and then just spam out and then convert back the other way. If there was a gamey way to overheat your economy way too much, then yeah. But I don't right now see, for most of these nations, that I'm building too many military ICs that I'm overheating my economy. This is why I just don't agree with this, because of this sort of balancing out between consumer good needs, because part of it should just be how much consumer goods, so it slows up your production of more military ICs, so you don't have 4 factories building bombers, you just have 1 factory. But I don't see why my economic fatigue disrupts my 1 factory building bombers. Yeah, this is what I just disagree. Quite honestly, if there was an easy way for me to mod out economic fatigue entirely out of the game, I would do so in a heartbeat and never go back to it, never play a version without it. That is one of my major hangups with this. And I know Uncharted just disagrees with me, and that's fine. It's his mod. My ideas are not controlling, and I do understand that. But they're still what I think is the better function here. Because it is really disheartening for players, and they don't always understand. You can explain to me, and okay, that why I'm only building, well, now almost 2. And I also dislike how long this takes to get up there when you add it. and that it can take so long at times to get to more reasonable production levels. But I'm building 3 fighters a month, almost 4. Yay! Out of 2 factories. Is that what hit? Is that okay? Here, okay. Here's your no longer affects a diverted fighter production. Okay. Is a mod doing well or not? What roughly was Italy's fighter production per month in 1938 in a peacetime Italy? Okay, what was it now? And am I over spamming something else? Now we've already made it so, you know, the game, I can't over spam ships, partially because of the numbers of slots, partially numbers of shipyards. Okay, so shipyards are taken out of it, so I can whatever. And then now, does 1 fighter here equal 1 fighter in reality, or is 1 fighter equaling 10 fighters in reality? You know, okay. So if your mod and or game is designed that, well, yeah, instead of having 500 fighters, we just want you to have 50 fighters, and they represent the 500. Okay, fine, you know. But that needs to be clearly defined for me. That just because of game mechanics. And it's clear in some cases, because we can look. Let's just click over here. Here, a division has more than 700 rifles. I mean, they call it infantry equipment because they're including helmets and boots and whatever. But obviously, a division has more than 700 rifles. Depending on, let's look at this template. Maybe it only has 7,000, so maybe this is, you know, though that would be, well, I don't know what one of these CCN divisions exactly had manpower-wise, but let's even say this is a 10-to-1. So, 3,000 machine guns, 7,000 rifles. Okay. And this doesn't, definitely, they did not have 600 artillery pieces. This is probably more 1-for-1 in the game. You know, and I don't like that, but okay if that's the way, you know, meaning either everything should be a percentage based on it, so I should have like 6 artillery pieces, fine, you know, if we're doing, 10% strength, or just go, hey, yeah, a division takes, 10,000 rifles or something, because that's sort of a smallish division is sort of 10,000 men, it's 10,000 rifles, and you just got to produce it. There may be reasons in game logic mechanics that you don't want to have too large of numbers, fine, but then it shouldn't, balance that out. Okay. But am I overproducing anything in this tree to the extent that I'm producing too many factories for artillery? Now, I got burned before with artillery, and maybe I'm overdoing that now as I'm looking at this. Let's look at numbers of artillery. Anti-tank, anti-air, heavy artillery 500, more heavy artillery too. Oh, that's heavy anti-air. Okay, we got too much heavy anti-air, I think. Artillery 2000. We probably got too much artillery, but I got burned with this mod my first playthrough and not having enough artillery and needing more other stuff. Okay, so in proportion with everything else, am I doing too few factories for air production, because we only have 3 types of aircraft in production? Maybe, but I don't think I am. And so unless this represents 300 aircraft a month, or even, maybe 30 aircraft, if the whole game is designed that 1 equals 10, well, okay, 30 fighters a month, okay, yeah, maybe, but other aircraft numbers in the game seem to be much more 1-for-1. It seems to me, and again, I don't know if World Ablaze has tweaked this out, but the numbers produced seem to be a hell of a lot more. So this just seems ridiculously low to me. Whether it's economic fatigue or just the grinding up of getting proficiently at your production of aircraft. And I do like the idea that you can't instantly jump between things, but yeah, it seems a bit long-term grindy, if you will. My take on it. I know I'm complaining a lot, but hey, I'm a mod developer, so I always look at it, how would I do it differently? Oh, good. We took this province. Combined Arms Warfare, good. You come up here, because we don't want to attack across river. Okay, so now we've got our two. Light combat with. We'll card attack breakthrough something. Yeah, I know about the alt tab, but I'm still just sort of looking down through. Organization, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, for tanks, breakthrough, hard attack, soft attack, conquer. I think this is the best way to go. For tanks. What? We got 2 out of 3 now. Oh no, we don't. Sorry, no, we don't. We still haven't done this one. I wasn't even looking at there. Okay, I just presumed that. Oh yeah, no, and I don't mean and I am complaining. But I don't mean this to be a, this is bad, don't play it kind of thing. This isn't me trying, oh, I don't need a rocket scientist. For Italy, fuck that. I don't care about that. Manpower, training time, base support. Okay, let's see about getting some military high command. Division recovery. You know, we got a lot of infantry. We do sort of want to go on some offensive and not be purely defensive, though that may be a mistake. Division recovery rate is good for defensive because if you get pushed out of the line and fall back, you can start sending them back into the line faster, better. And Italy might be a nation that you should just play on the defensive, might be, but I'm not going to go that pessimistic a route, so we will look for better infantry attack and defense, yes. So we'll put him in charge, because I'm just looking, we have a huge amount of political power. Yeah, it does matter for our war in Spain right now, but beyond that, not necessarily. Go away. I hate little pop-ups from, maybe there's a way to get rid of them from Steam, telling me what my friends are playing right now. And I get that it's the idea that, oh, this is all the same. These aren't hierarchical. Okay. Oh, here, this staff. Here, general staff. Okay. Recovery rate, division, defense. Okay, well, Italy's not going to be fast on its speed, so we're going to ignore that. Morale, recovery rate, yeah, good. Defense. Theorist. Let's go for that. Air warfare. We'll come to those in a moment. Now with... Oh, so we can have multiples of these. Okay, so... Bono or Bagdalio? Bagdalio we'll pick just because I... But we'll allow recovery rate as well here. And we don't have enough to continue. Okay, cool. And it sometimes can seem that I'm just sort of bitching about things and not really liking them. But that's really not the case. Okay, you've made it all the way up to there. You there. You come to here. You come to here at least. You come up to there. Make sure we get... Hello, Sebastian. How you doing? Okay, guys, I think it's time to end this episode. Not the live stream, but the episode. So I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Love to see you around more often. See you next time. Okay, let's just make a save. We're going to make another episode here, but just want to sort of make sure and continue on. Okay. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and I'm playing Hearts of Iron 4 with World Ablaze mod as Italy. And but before we get into that, if you like, you could please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, comment below. All that helps so much. Okay, looks like they've got that province held, so we're going to come up to here. And we just got this. Okay, so now, well, whether this is the, well, this would be the pocket. Well, I guess this is the pocket because they've moved their capital out to Barcelona. Okay, so we've now pocketed a huge amount. We really don't want to cross the, attack across the river, that is. Issue general contracts. Okay, where's the other division? Okay, so okay, 14 days. I'm just sort of kind of waiting to get to 39 to do some of these, because I'd rather have some of the stuff going before just building some forts that I don't need right now, because I have is there any reason to wait on taking Albania? I don't know that they have any industry or are pursuing any aviation effort too. Oh, really? That's what they should be doing. Again, I hate... I so hate this stuff. Okay. What they did. And this I'm talking about Hearts of Iron, not about the mod. Yeah, 28 days claims on Yugoslavia. No, we're not going to pursue that at the moment. Let's just grab up. Yeah, I don't know that we're going to get any real economic benefit there, but whatever. Yeah, I do sort of want radar stations. I like that. Okay, we're going to not concentrate our effort, but we're going to attack those two provinces simultaneously and hoping, well, and we'll support that attack from there. We don't want them breaking out, but we will hit them everywhere. Oh, where did the German go? He was just standing around looking pretty. Oh, there he is. He's marching around looking pretty now. Okay. Bordello Bum Bum. Okay. Is that some sort of saying about Bagdaglio? I don't know. Alright, well, now we're going to come over here with you guys. Oh, well. Okay, you divisions are going to head back this way. You can cut Spain in two here. Yeah. I don't know if attacking through these mountains are a good idea, but we'll try it nonetheless. Okay, new fighter. More closer air support model, actually, but yeah. There we go, we should be able to punch through them fairly quickly.
Comandi. Ordini.
You attack there just to stop these guys from moving in. They're pursuing these guys before they get organized. Now we're waiting for our tanks to move into the hills, or the mountains, which is probably the main delay. Okay, well. Yeah, the MC-200, that's a good plane, and we definitely will pursue it, but I didn't want to pursue it early. We can wait till later in the year, if not next year. Albanian occupation. Let's see what happens with that. Does that give me an event here? Okay. Or a decision or something? Maybe. Or do I just need to wait? Maybe just need to wait. Nope, we want to annex it. There we go. Okay, well, let's see. Oh, good. Well, we got 3 dockyards. Okay, nothing down there in the south, but 3 dockyards, 6 civ factories, and 2 mill factories. Very nice. Probably a bit, especially the dockyards, a bit overly much. And I blame the game, not the mod, for that. Now, I don't know about doing some of those. Let's see if we were to stick a... Well, okay, war's going to happen later, so we don't need to do... I mean, knowing what's going on in the Mediterranean right now is fun, but not overly useful. So... let's build factories now that will help us today. And not just someday. And also part of my thoughts here. Air research doctrines. Yeah, that would help. Okay, that'll help. Ooh. Okay, just for 1,000 days. Don't know why just for 1,000 days, but okay. 35 days, we'll do that. Okay, well, now that they moved to there, you come to here. Zog Smiths. Okay, we're going to come to here with you. You're going to march to there. Okay, you attack up to there. What you're supposed to do is stop them from attacking me here. Okay, whoa. Okay, stop attacking there. Start attacking there. We want to capture these units, not push them out. Cut off these units. Anarchist uprising. Well, like they've already lost their territory for the anarchist uprising. More military factories. Okay, well. Oh, yeah, let's do this. No, well, let's look for a moment of research. Let's just find the Okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to produce any of these better planes. I'm just going to keep producing what I have and then make the jump to there once we do so. Sometimes the big jump is really difficult for it, but I think we'll just continue to spam these out. Just more numbers over quality. Yeah, I'll throw in another. Oh, looks like too many of their units are getting out, at least more than I wanted them to get out. Let's pound into Valencia while we can. Oh, where's my other infantry division? Over here. Okay, well that's good. You come down this way now. Okay, well, we end up with just, what, one division in the pocket? But still, okay. Oh, that one's retreating back into the pocket, nice. Okay. Go. Go. You come along the coast.
Pronto, signore.
Okay, you attack there, you come to here.
Sì, signore. Formazione. Comandi.
Yeah, I know this is empty. Well, you know, let's retask you to drive around that way. Because he's going to attack there like that, and he's going to support that attack. Yeah, I know it's fortified, but I'm hoping we can still push in and do it before they get too strong. That's a weak shell of a division, and so is that. Okay, they're coming out. Let's push into here. Cut these guys off even more.
Comandi.
We'll push on them.
Formazione. Comandi.
Well, I'm on the wrong unit. There we go. Quality is better than numbers. Well, not necessarily. So I've read that in North Africa, during the campaign, it was who had the most aircraft up in the day that was ruling the skies. And now, or maybe you're just talking in the game, that's a different matter. Pasta makers are good special units. Yeah, they can be. You definitely want the Italians to be your cooks and not the Germans, that's for sure. Unless you really like knockwurst. They really found that because it was sort of a big open area, because there really wasn't huge numbers of aircraft anyways, it was he who could put the most aircraft up in the sky did the best air that day. Now, of course, if you had some Spitfires or Hurricanes, being able to locate and find, because this wasn't a high density radar zone like you have over the battle, over Britain. If you can locate and find crappy Italian aircraft, the Hurricanes and Spitfires would. Now, Italians did have some good. Oh, in game, okay. Italians did have some good fighters, but and yes, I'm quantity over quality. Well, I'm going obviously the opposite route now, but and so if they could locate, you know, that they would shoot the crappy Italian stuff out of the sky. But there was often cases that those crappy Italian airplanes that got up into the sky and flew that day, because sometimes the Spitfires were needing too much maintenance, they couldn't fly that day. The Italian fighters would get up there and strafe, because everything's sort of fairly exposed out here, strafe ground units where you might not be able to strafe those ground units effectively in the forests and even in the plains, because, you know, yeah, it's sort of hills, but there's trees and houses and whatnot to hide around. Not really out here. So yeah, quality is a quantity all of its own. But yeah, I hear you in the game. It was the best biplane they had. Yeah. I don't know much about Arno about the Italian aircraft models. Biplanes are, generally speaking, very good at maneuvering. It's just that they're slow. And so if you can zoom and boom, you know, zip by them really fast and shoot them and then pull away, it doesn't, and if you can do that before they can react and before they can, you know, dodge or whatever, you can kill them. But if they can dodge or get out of the way, the maneuverable aircraft can be better of a biplane. Just, well, 120 days. Yeah, let's do this. We'll get this going. And then we'll jump to the better fighters for that. And I guess we'll put up more fighters now. Now we have another slot. Let's, how are we doing a motorized? So we need a lot more support equipment. We've never caught up. We caught up on motorized. Okay. So let's do more support equipment. We'll do 2 more factories at least once we get the more. We can cut off this last port one way or another. We cut all these guys off and get to destroy them. And they'll be easy to kill because they won't have any organization or equipment. Days. Yeah, we'll do this. I don't know of any other looming countdowns that I got to sort of get to right now. There we go. Now you're cut off from, if you had any, but if you didn't have any, you were already, but cut off from supplies. Oh, we've got command. Is there any of these guys that we can actually improve? No. None of these other generals have been active enough to get. Oh well. What could we do? Okay, well, let's see. Unyielding defender, defense. Okay. He already has that. Organization, first reinforcement rate, recovery rate. Let's go. Let's go that. Just trying to use up some of my command power on useful things. Okay, we've learned some lessons from the Spanish Civil War. Right, okay, Spanish State Alliance, demand the Balearics. The infrastructure will definitely help. Yeah, let's do this. Let's look over here. I think maybe we should now try this. There we go. And pursue. Rush, rush, rush. Don't give them a moment's break. It must have been really, really different. We're just thinking about how would I feel if I was driving around in one of these little tanks. And I thought, you know, in the Spanish Civil War or something like that, pretty okay, because yeah, they got two machine guns on there. You know, whether you're driving or your buddy is driving and you're using the machine guns, it's okay. And then you can get refineries. Okay, we'll see about that. But then I thought about the Germans that occupied Italy. They, you know, in the occupation, they acquired a bunch of these light tanks, and they use those tanks. And how would I feel as a German? Now, some of them are Organization Todt guys, and if you don't know, Organization Todt is a sort of a construction organization, basically, but they have armed units, partially to guard involuntary labor, we'll call it. But they also recruited labor, you know, sign up here, pay, because a lot of people, because even if you have a ration book, doesn't mean you get food. It just means you have the ability to buy food. Get pay and better ration book. Sign up here, join organization tote. You know, so both voluntary and involuntary labor, but they also had guards and security units. And they were worried about partisans and whatnot in Italy, so that's mainly who the organization tote was armed and equipped to fight, not like the Americans. So yeah, they weren't really thinking of driving the little L3s or CV-33s or whatever you want to call them against American Sherman tanks. But yeah, getting that late in the war, I'm sort of like, yeah, I'm in a little metal box that anything but a rifle can penetrate me. I may not want to stay in here when things start getting shot around. So yeah, depends on what time of the war it is, whether I would want to be in a CV-33 or something similar. Just running around out here as the machine gun bullets are flying and the mortar shells and the light artillery going off, yeah, it might be sort of nice to be in a even lightly armored box. It'd be hot. It'd, you know, have engine fumes probably coming into it. Of light warfare came after the what, Polish-Russian War. I'm not exactly sure. You're talking about 1920. Yeah, because tanks in World War I weren't, well, they had the British had the Whippet tank, just a big machine gun only armed and fast tank that was trying to be, you know, motorized armored cavalry type stuff. It was trying to be that. I'm not saying that it succeeded, but that was sort of what it was trying to do. Oh, and yeah, like if you ever redo your Italian, the Caproni N1 shouldn't be in 45. It should be like what, 1938 or 37. The Italians can have jet fighters. Now they should suck, but you should be able to have them early. If you want jets, Italy can have jets early if they want them. They had them. They were early. They just sucked. Not really. I don't know. I did sort of skip. Okay. Rates off the tank. Yeah, I'm not so much worried about artillery recovery, maybe so much as more soft attack. So I guess we'll do this. Yeah, we'll spend the bonus. I will object to your idea of the science of lightning warfare. I believe in the term art, the art of war, not a science. It is not scientific. I have a degree in political science. I don't think political science exists. So I have a university degree in a subject that I don't believe exists. Politics is not a science. You don't put in formula X and get Y results every time. Politics is an art form. It is not a science. It is not like a social. It isn't even a social science. Now I know social departments sort of feel like, yeah, we want to have, you know. Oh, we'll change this to the newer stuff. We want to have a scientific term like the other departments. No, it should be, you know, the art of politics. Some sociology, yeah, does sort of get to social science, but politics is an art. It isn't a science. Warfare is not an art. I mean, it is an art. It is not a science. Too much of warfare. Yep, we're going to put these 2 factories into building naval bombers because I want naval bombers. You know, is in the too much of warfare happens inside the minds of men. Often the unit commanders, whether it's a platoon or a theater commander, and it's not how many tanks you have on the battlefield and how well they're organized. It's how well, it's surprise. But surprise doesn't mean collapse. The enemy commander can be dogged and dig in and turn that surprise attack around and defeat the enemy, because surprise attack may be 1/4 of your strength, but at night time or in fog or whatever, you don't know that they're only 1/4 of you, and all you know is you're being shot at by machine guns. And they're over there, and you don't want to be where you are, so you want to leave. But maybe your commander keeps you there, keeps you shooting back. And even though the enemy's in a better position and did the surprise, you still win because the mind of your commander was enough that was able to communicate to your troops to hold out. That's why science and military and science and politics terms I disagree with. Okay, well, okay, I guess we'll do that. Napoleonic tactics. Yeah, well, now, Napoleonic tactics, in my opinion, in my viewpoint, is really the start of combined warfare tactics, because it was sort of Napoleon that's starting to create persistent, not necessarily permanent, but persistent divisions, where, and you see this up until even in a way modern day, but like in England, in which I know the army the best as it progresses over the ages, in the 18th century and in through to the Napoleonic era, you have the Royal Artillery, which also sort of controls the Royal Engineers. And they hardly even talk to the army. Now, they're part of the army, but they even hardly talk to the army, meaning they can go years, literally years, with maybe literally hardly. I mean, I'm not saying if they don't like say hi to each other in the street, but they don't talk to each other. And it's sort of like in the Royal Artillery, you get your officer's commission based on capabilities. You go through schools, you get trained, in mathematics, because, do mathematics to shoot artillery at people and do the engineers. And you go through where in the army, you're sort of like, oh, hey, I want to be a captain. No, I haven't even been a lieutenant, haven't even, been anything. Haven't had any training. I want to be a captain. Hey, I have money. Give me a commission. Okay, sure. Yeah. Oh, you're the son of that dude and you have money? Okay, we'll give you a commission. Now, of course, you're supposed to start learning your trade, but you bought into a captaincy. Now, some people, if you're buying right into a colonelcy, it's just for flavor. You don't really actually command it. But in captains or whatever, yeah, and it was really abusive. Now, generals were promoted up differently, but they're a different thing. But, majors, captains, you're supposed to step through it, but you can sort of, without too abusive, jump past, first and second lieutenants, if you will, jump right into a captaincy if you had the money. And, you sort of bought it up there. And so the artillery and the army weren't talking to each other. And then, we're playing war with France again? Yeah, we do it out every 20 or 30 years. Okay, fine. And so, hey, yeah, General so-and-so, yeah, we have this new artillery piece we developed 5 years ago. It does this other thing. What? You have a what? I've never heard of that. I mean, it was literally almost that kind of thing. I'm overstating it for dramatic effect. Hey, Rhaegar, how you doing? And so, yeah, I'm overstating it a bit for dramatic effect, but it really is a separate, the Royal Artillery and the rest of the army are separate institutions. One is sort of scientific and performance-based, the Royal Artillery and the Engineers. They're sort of associated with each other. And the Army. And if you ever watch any, if you haven't watched Zulu, wonderful movie, go watch it. It's great. And there's two officers commanding, Shard and Bromhead. I think it's Bromhead. He is an engineering officer who is tasked with building a bridge over a river, and he sort of kind of finds some troops laying about and starts telling them what to do, and they sort of like, well, okay, there's an officer guy, he's wearing the proper coat, but he's telling us what to do. And when their lieutenant shows up, who's been off hunting in Africa, this is of course during the the Zulu Wars in 1880 or whatever, shows up and, speaking, played by Michael Caine, speaking in a very, high-class British accent, well, yeah, but it's sort of nice that you had asked before you just used my troops. Not that he was going to complain or the guy didn't have the right authority to use the company that was sort of guarding the ford, because it was like a ford to get across the river there. And there's a little mission that they're there, but was to build a bridge to move supplies up easier. You should have asked first, So sit around for a day or a week until I come back from my little hunting trip and just wait for it. But okay, yeah, go ahead and do that. They can continue working on your bridge. And so he sort of the lieutenant sort of confirmed to the sergeants, yeah, you should follow this engineering officer's orders, because he's an engineer. And then, the sort of fleeing cavalry come by and tell him, yeah, we're fucked at Isal and Dawanda. Everyone got ass fucked. They're coming to ass fuck you soon. You better run. And so the infantry officer, who's presumably a pretty good officer, wants to get out and deploy his troops and, skirmish, fight, and retreat and whatnot. And yeah, he's going to do this. And the other guys, well, yeah, no, we should defend this little fortification building here. Ah, well, we're both lieutenants. Well, and so what they do is they compare their dates of commission. And this is what it was. The guy in charge is the guy who's been a lieutenant the longest. And it turns out, I don't know, by a day, a month, a year, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The engineering officer has been a lieutenant longer than the infantry officer. So the engineering officer is in charge. Now this, I don't know if it comes across in the movie well, but this panics, in essence, the infantry officer, because the guy that's now in charge, in his thinking, in his mind, in the professional soldier's mind, and he's presumably, by this point, by the 1880s, you still bought your commission, but you had to go through training, and they've gotten rid of most of the really bad ones, and even if you go through training, you can still really have bad officers. But he's panicked that here's this guy who has presumably no training in combat, because you could be a Royal Engineers officer and never gone through a day of like, oh, that's a bullet comes out of that end of the gun. Okay, how interesting. Because he's been trained to build bridges and build fortifications. Obviously, he knows which way the bullet comes out of the gun, but he's not ever been trained in any sort of battlefield leadership skills necessarily. I'm not saying whether he had or hadn't had any experience. Bromhead, I believe it's Bromhead of the two. I don't think he did, and whatever. But okay, he's now in charge. So this professional soldier is now seeing a non-professional soldier who's a professional engineer is now in charge of his command. And if he were to go, fuck you, I'm taking my platoon, my company out of here, and the other guy makes it out alive, he's ruined his career, he's ruined his life. And it's probably better to die and let all your troops die than to ruin your life. That's sort of the thinking of the British soldiers, the officers at the time. So yeah, oh fuck. I've just now been saddled with an idiot who's going to run my command. Because this guy has no training. We barely talk to these engineer guys. We just sort of tolerate them because we need them to build a bridge across this stream or do this other thing. And yeah, they know, building a bridge, building a building. Hey, yeah, I'm not a fool. I don't want my house built by somebody who's not a construction engineer. So it doesn't think the guy's stupid, just thinks the guy has no idea what he's doing. Now, of course, had you followed Chard's if they had been able to tactically retreat and get out there, I don't know if they would have. If the Zulus would have pursued them past the mission, I don't know. They very well might have. They probably would have been fucked because there were just way too many Zulus. At least one impi showed up, which is, a few thousand men, and they just got, like 100 guys or 80 guys or whatever. They're, outnumbered 10 to, or 20 to 1, literally. They would have been screwed. And the cavalry, which is local South Africans who also hate the Zulus, that are sort of a volunteer force, they say "fuck you" and run away. They just split. And the local black levies, which weren't, it wasn't like necessarily imperial black levies over, no, these were black sort of construction workers, semi-military types. They hated the Zulus too, because the Zulus were big mean tribes that beat up on the other tribes around them. So the other black groups like, yeah, you're going to protect us from the Zulus, we like you. Trust me, there was a lot of black Africans, particularly in South Africa, where the Afrikaans, the guys, they did have slavery. They weren't the slaves like sending off to America or whatever, but they did sort of have local slavery a bit, but not huge plantations, my understanding, in the early days. But even there, obviously the slaves could run away, but there were these big evil Zulus out there, and so the white guys with the guns were sort of cool to hang around with, because the black guys with the spears were actually worse than the white guys with the guns. So yeah, not all of the black people disliked imperialism. They, especially when you got to up into Rhodesia. It was a different tribe that was sort of big and mean to everyone, that the whites came in and, stop being mean to these other people, really. I mean, to the point that people weren't able to live in villages. They had to live out hiding in the bush, because if they sort of stormed a village, they'd come and get raided. And the few whites showed up and said, yeah, stop that, bang, 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 and shoot the bad ones. And the other ones were like, oh, you're going to shoot these bad people, and oh, you're just going to take some of that nice juicy farmland that, well, it was sort of my grandfather's, but now these black guys were killing me every time they saw me. You're just going to take most of the nice farmland, but leave me alone and protect me from the guys that are killing me? Well, okay. I mean, that's really how a lot of the colonialization happened, is that, the white guys, they might not be wonderful for the black people, but they were less bad than the mean bullies that were already there. And so, that's why few white people with guns and had a good reputation were generally able to rule large numbers of black people, because they're not perfect, but they're sort of better than the bad bullies, and they keep the bad bullies down. And so they're racist, they're whatever, but they're not so terrible. And especially the English showing up, sort of stopping the slavery of the Afrikaners eventually, still allowing to sort of racial segregation and all, but stopping slavery. And so, the black sort of levy troops, they all desert and split out. But the proper English troops obey orders and fight. And Bromhead does a brilliant, sets up defensive, use the food bags for the troops that were meant to be coming across the river as sandbags, and fight off the Zulus, fight off an incredible number of them, and wins, because he understands siege warfare, and he understands, but the army doesn't, the standard army officer doesn't not really know that engineering officers understand siege warfare, because they're trained to take forts and or build and defend forts, and how to do that. They're not good officers necessarily. I mean, it doesn't mean that they don't know what happens on a big battlefield, but they're not trained to do, open battlefield warfare. They're trained to do siege warfare, but they literally don't hardly talk, especially at like lieutenant's levels. I mean, the guy who's in charge of, a major or colonel of engineers does talk to the brigadier general or whatever, and they sort of know the stuff. But down lower level, they hardly talk to each other. They don't eat together. They hardly nod an acquaintance to each other. And that's how the British, I know we're talking about the stuff, that's how the British Army, and that was in the 1880s. Okay, well, the Napoleonic, so you have this Napoleonic warfare. Napoleon is the one that's first really going, okay, you're a divisional commander now, Ney or whoever, Marshal Ney. Well, he's obviously Marshal higher than a divisional commander, but you're now a divisional commander, and you'll have these infantry battalions under your control. And you'll have these batteries. Now, these artillery batteries, they're going to do what you say. If there's another artillery officer, he can't come along and say, oh, well, we're going to use those artillery for this other thing. No. These are permanently signed to your division until I or whoever unassigns them. So you actually now have some artillery that's part of your division. Oh, and see these squadrons of cavalry? They're assigned to your division. Not some cavalry officers can pull them away, higher ranking or some other. No, the cavalry. Now, cavalry in Britain has been part of the army, but they're a separate part of the army a bit more. You don't, officers don't, you don't, 99% of the time or whatever, a cavalry officer doesn't exchange commission for an infantry unit. It's sort of their own hierarchy, but they do talk to the infantry and the cavalry do talk to each other in the British Army. They're more together than the artillery, and the engineers are separate. But now with Napoleon, you're sort of permanently is a bit overstating it too, but you're now permanently assigning a number of cavalry units to this group of infantry battalions that you're organizing in brigades that are forming a division. And now with Napoleonic warfare of Napoleon, you're starting to get the idea of an organized combined arms situation. It may not be anything like we're seeing in World War II, especially, obviously, there's no motorization, there's no armor. Armor does exist in the past, but it's, armored battle wagons that were sort of moved around and then parked. So those sort of semi-mobile fortresses, you see this often in the East, different kinds of things, that whether with horses or oxen would move these wagons around that they then sort of form up together, and guys would be archers, shooting their crossbows or whatever out of these battle wagons that are sort of semi-fortress-like things. So yeah, there is a vague concept, and of course, Leonardo da Vinci draws some ideas of tanks in the Renaissance. So there is an idea of mobile armor, but mostly it's not really a workable thing. So the Napoleonic era is when we start to see the idea of combining the arms under a coordinated commander. And not just he who commands the battlefield, because you find, go back to Ramillies or some of the other stuff in the early 18th century. Yeah, the general in charge, the general, because he's no longer because this is the idea of what a general is. He is no longer a cavalry. He may be coming out of the cavalry, the infantry, but he's no longer an infantry officer or a cavalry officer or a colonel or a major or anything like that. He is now a general officer. That is the term. He has now made it to a level of command that he is a general officer. And so you may have, back in London, 20 generals. Hey, yeah, General, what's your name? You're going to go command these 20 battalions, 10 batteries, 30 squadrons, and go and do this stuff. This other general, and just vaguely give out sizes of forces. Now, sometimes you have sub-generals and whatnot, and that control parts of them because it gets too big for one general to sort of control on the battlefield. But these general officers are just sort of, but yeah, next week, next month, you may be commanding a completely different collection. There may be 2 or 3 battalions, batteries, or whatever in this new collection of units, but it's going to constantly flow and change, and it's not really, unless it's sort of isolated, because sometimes you get isolated campaigns, it's not really any sort of permanent organized combined arms stuff. And so, yeah, the general officer may be saying, now's the moment for the cavalry to charge. So he sends one of his orderlies, they all ride horses, riding over to the cavalry. Yeah, charge over there. Sort of vague instructions, charge at that hill or whatever. Oh, okay, so we get ready and they go charge. Now, no one's necessarily told the infantry officers that the cavalry is going to be charging. It's not a proper there's an idea of it, but it's not really a proper combined arms warfare. And it's really starting in the Napoleonic era that you're getting, with Napoleon more so. Wellington's coming along with the theories too, and starting to form divisions that are somewhat permanent of units, and not just now. See, with Wellington, you're finding more the idea of brigades, and then brigades forming divisions of infantry that are sort of permanent, but they're not so much assigning cavalry or artillery that's permanent to the division. It's more of a division of infantry that you're at least most of the time finding with it. Now, in a de facto sense, because General what's his name, it doesn't matter whether it's Bedford or whatever, but maybe sort of running up along the coast on his own for weeks or months at a time. And yeah, he only has the cavalry and the artillery with him, so it stays with him for a long time. But when there's 3 or 4 brigades, 1 week a battery may be supporting 1 brigade, 3 or 4 brigades together, and the next week it's supporting a different brigade, and then the general decides to move all of his cavalry over to the left wing or something. So the cavalry that was sort of working with another brigade, well, it's just gone now because it's just over, over all concentrated somewhere else. So it's much more fluid as opposed to a cavalry division, which Napoleon's army did have some, or divisions that had attached cavalry that, at least in the normal course of warfare, don't get pulled away. So it's sort of the Napoleonic era that we're starting to see a combined arms idea coming out. I know I've sort of gone into a bit of a thing. Hussite battle wagons, yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, they go back. The idea of battle wagons goes way back into, ancient Egypt, the pre-sea peoples, whoever the hell they were. I don't think we have a good idea for sure yet who the sea peoples were that came in. Sort of was some of the first big collapse of society in really ancient antiquity. Yeah, no, they you go way back to the idea of a wagon that is maybe just with wood and hide on it. Hide doesn't burn so well. So, if you're just shooting simple fire arrows at a hide-covered wagon, you probably put the fire out if it's that. So, yeah, battle wagons, go back to ancient times. So there's armor, mobile to a degree, meaning it's not necessarily rampaging across the battlefield, but it's moving to a good position, maybe pull away the whatever is moving. It could be humans, but more likely animals of some sort. And then if the battlefield changes enough, they might reattach the animals and move it to another location and then withdraw it. That's sort of the normal way. And then, of course, there's various siege type. 14th century, we do not. Response to dissolution. Sumeria did it first, I think, 14th century. Yeah, and so, it goes all the way back there. So armor and warfare, and then, of course, you have siege towers, some of the not Heliopolis, something helio-destructive they built to, attack the city walls somewhere. Yeah, that's sort of a siege thing, not so much an open battle thing. But yeah, so armor does exist. And of course you do have the individual armor eventually of the knight. Sort of the cataphract too, but maybe not quite as heavily armored. So yeah, you have these sort of ideas, and now the knight sometimes is fighting on foot, and sometimes on the horse. So it's not necessarily, and the knight, when it becomes a knight, is no longer a scouting force. It is a battlefield impact force, and it is to a point. This is what one guy who I think back in the 90s decided to ride his horse like somewhere up in Europe. This was when it was still sort of politically and environmentally, meaning there wasn't so much terrorism, he was going to ride, he and his wife or whatever were going to ride horses to the Middle Ages to sort of reenact, a knight traveling through the Crusades. Well, he found after a few days of riding his war horse, a big, sort of war horse-like horse, couldn't ride it anymore because it was just too hard to ride. The clop, clop, clop of this big horse. So what he did is he bought a smaller riding horse and they just turned his war horse into a pack horse because it could carry a lot of weight. And that's what, if you look into it, a lot of knights had 2 horses. One to ride around all the time in, and the other to go in and, train and do battle training and then go and do battle on with all his armor on it. So when you get ready to go fighting, so knights weren't a scouting force. They were sort of heavily armored impact forces on the battlefield that starting with crossbow, well, starting a little bit with longbows, you see Cressy and Agincourt and whatnot, but really being, but that was sort of specialized to only England being able to have longbows. Really, the sort of spreading of crossbows, and definitely was the gunpowder that finally doomed, muskets finally doomed the idea of heavy armored individuals that fulfill the sort of tank role in the battlefield. So cavalry becomes scouting and pursuit, after the battle, and maybe still impact, but only at critical moments once the enemy is weakened. World War I armor is your favorite. Now, are you talking personal body armor or tanks? Not quite sure. Knights were more like airplanes locked behind logistics and needed to operate from a safe area. To a degree, yeah, I will give you that, in that they needed the logistics. They needed a safe area to get ready to fight, put all that armor on. Even in the chainmail days, when it just chainmail and it had a heavy helmet and a shield, they were still sort of knights and not yet the, fully kitted out, plated armor knight kind of thing. But yeah, and so that disappears really effectively. I mean, you still have the cuirassiers trying to be it, but it's not really that effective. It is extremely rare you find well-ordered infantry that a direct attack the cavalry can break. Now, if they can attack them on their flanks or their rear, they're not well ordered in the sense they didn't have time to form a square or some sort of thing like that. But basically, cavalry is no longer the shock impact troop that breaks a well-ordered group. Now, if you shot up an infantry square with a bunch of, canister shot from artillery, and they're all sort of like disordered, and then you charge in the cavalry, yeah, fine, they're already disordered, and you can break that square and take it out with your cavalry. But they're no longer the knights that can really sort of do that on their own. Your horse was worth more than a whole village. The right horse, yes. Not just horses, but the right horse, horse that's been bred to be very heavy, and then has also been trained. Because I don't know if you don't realize this, horses aren't entirely dumb, and horses, seeing a bunch of sort of horse-like things with big flowing, colorful things around them. They put draped cloth around, the knight's livery on it, like blue and white or whatever, and have big, sharp, pointy things on them charging at you, or a bunch of infantry, a bunch of men standing there with a bunch of sharp, pointy sticks at you. They don't necessarily want to charge straight into that. They sort of like, yeah, no, I want to go over here somewhere else away. And they will, unless they're trained. And you got to train them to do that. And it takes years to train them. So yeah, depending on the village, obviously there's well-off villages, but some poor Scrabble Earth village, yeah, a proper warhorse trained up can be worth more than a low-level village. And so yeah, warfare. This is one thing I really try to do, is study the change and developments of warfare and see how they affect things like this, as you can tell. Okay. Well, it's getting to the point. I know we haven't got a whole lot of time done, just from the sort of the beginning through to mid 38, but I think we're going to end this here. I want to thank you all for watching and for your comments. Sebastian, Ragar, Harmony, you've been great for this whole stream, giving me a lot of good tips. I'll try to remember those that are still coming. I do like World Ablaze. I just have my problems with it. Nothing is perfect. Never going to fully agree. I know that. Yeah, I think I'm going to be ending this here. My grandfather taught me that. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be back tomorrow playing War Thunder, and you're all invited to come and play with me. I'll even rotate out, though, normally just a few of us. It's free to play game if you don't have it. Come play with me, mission or two at least, or whatever, or just hang out and watch if you don't want to play. Be doing that, and I think it's Friday for Strategic Command World at War. I'm going to be playing for Slytherin, and then some more Hearts of Iron and whatnot. So yeah, thanks. Glad it was interesting. We will be doing more of this. So see you tomorrow, next week, whenever, or just catch the stuff on YouTube. Thanks, everyone. Maybe a little. Just 100. I don't think so. So I realized what's going to happen and starts fortifying up his little command immediately. And organizes up and leads a brilliant defensive campaign. I'm not saying it didn't make a mistake, but it survived. It survived. And that is update to our thing here.